They get mad at me when y'all hear me snoring. Who is that? It's a noodle. Minute, move. Don't do that. Hey, y'all. It's me. It's your girl. The real deal. You already know. Like, share, and subscribe. What's up, real deal? Y'all get tuned in. Come on in inside. And stop by that like button, thumbs up button. Stop on in. Mhm. Y'all come on in. Come on in. Come on in. Whew, let me see what they doing. Why they ain't came on yet? They ain't came on yet, yo. Here it come. Here it come. Y'all get ready. They ain't got the
Excuse
voice
me.
on.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Your Honor, we have a nice weekend. Sure, it was a working weekend for a lot of people in here. Um, we do have all 60 members of our jury present this morning. Is there anything we need to take up prior to the jury coming in? And I'll go around the room first from the state.
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
Mr. Davis, Ms. Michelle from the defense.
Judge, last week we talked about the transcript for the wire. We did get an opportunity this weekend to go through that in detail, comparing it to what the hearing. We did that with our client in person. That way he could also give any input as to what accuracies or inaccuracies there may have been. We did find quite a bit of inaccuracies. I know that there's an instruction about that, but when we talked on Friday, we did say that obviously we would have some concern if there were major inaccuracies, and unfortunately we did find that there are quite a bit. It's not just like a couple here and there that can simply be redacted, which is what we talked about with the state at some point. If there's something that's really inaccurate, let's just redact it. I don't think that that's possible to do that in this case, and so we would have an issue with that being an aid that the jury is using while listening. We understand that it's not going back with them, but we do think that it would lead to confusion. It would be misleading. There are definitely parts where you can just tell it's not like what's there is not what's being said, or who's saying it is labeled inaccurately on the transcript. And so you're listening to one person that says it's one. It's obviously not that person.
At least it's obvious to us.
Right.
It won't be obvious to them, and that's why we think it's going to be distracting, Your Honor.
Okay.
So just wanted to bring that up to the court, and obviously we said we talked about that today, so I wanted to make sure the court knew where we stood.
Have you brought the specific areas where you believe there's an inaccuracy? Has that been brought to the state's attention so that they know exactly what you're referring to?
Judge, we talked to them about the inaccuracies, but we did not go line by line and show them each and every inaccuracy. But I'll let them speak for themselves, but their position is that that's what the point of the instruction is, and that whatever inaccuracies there may be, we can argue that in closing. But we do think that the prejudice to our client, as well as the confusion for the jury, would be so great that it would not be proper to have them use it during the actual listening of the wire today, or whenever they plan to listen.
Mr. Skinner, anything from the state?
Brief response, Your Honor. They have told us, the defense has told the state exactly what they told the court, so we don't know what it's pointing to as far as specific inaccuracies that we may very well agree to. It won't be played till tomorrow, so we can make those changes tonight. That's one. Number two, the instruction addresses exactly this. Number three, we will have a witness testify. We're not just playing the wire like a detective. We have one of the two inmates that was speaking to the one's deceased. So we can only call one. He has looked through this. That's where the evidence is going to show the initials with respect to the three people involved in the conversation come directly from the witness stand, not just us guessing, it's from the witness. The defense, of course, unless the defendant testifies and says otherwise, or maybe some other fashion, if they want to put on evidence to say their client didn't say that, that's certainly, they can certainly do that. But the evidence we're putting on, very specifically, it's laid out in that transcript who's speaking. We have nothing to the contrary of that. So when the defense says they have some inaccuracies, we'll be glad to look at those tonight. We can make changes if we simply agree. I think Mr. Davis told me earlier this morning, some of the disagreement is that sometimes the initials are wrong with respect to who's talking. And all those issues, Your Honor, are dealt with in that instruction. So our position is it's our evidence. We've laid a proper predicate. It's already in evidence. We're still calling the witness to talk about who those initials are and who's doing the talking. And we have nothing to contradict that. There's nothing at all from the state's case. So our position is the transcript is a very long 2-hour wire. So it's very helpful in following along. If counsel, lastly, Judge, if counsel argues in closing that they disagree that who was speaking, we can't object to that. That's exactly what the instruction is for. So if they want to argue our client didn't say that, that's a valid argument. They want to throw that out closing argument. We wouldn't have a legal objection to be able to say that. It's just a comment on the evidence. So our position is it should be used by the jury. It is in a jail. It does help them understand to kind of follow along the conversation. Is it perfect? I'm sure it's not. But if the defense wants to point some of those out, I will be glad to make those corrections where we agree.
Okay. I would ask you guys to get together and point out the inaccuracies that this defense believes to the state. You guys can go through it that way. The standard instruction is 2.6. It does say if you notice any difference between what you hear in the recordings and what you read in the transcript, you must rely on what you hear, not what you read. If you guys want to show me any case law regarding this issue, the defense wants to provide their own transcript of what they believe is said. I'm sure I can give the jury 2 transcripts, and I can tell the jury one transcript is based off what the state believes they are hearing. One is based off what the defense is believe you are hearing from the on the recording. And then the jury can make that factual determination as to what they hear, independent of the state's contention or the defense contention. In addition, though, Mr. Skinner said it is the state's presentation of the evidence. It's the state's. I'm paraphrasing here. The instruction also says you're being furnished transcripts of the recorded conversations. It's not being said this is the state's position of what you're hearing, and here's a transcript based off that. They're being provided transcript. In their mind, they're going to think it's independent of any party. That's not what the standard instruction says. If I have to edit the standard instruction to say because the defense does not believe it's accurate, and say you're being provided what the state believes is said, and then provide a copy of what the defense believes that they hear, we can address it. If you guys have any case law you guys want me to consider on the issue as well, we can take it up during a break today. But you guys may be in a position of talking about what you guys believe is not accurate from either side. And if you guys can't come to an agreement on one transcript, provide the jury 2 transcripts, and I'll edit the standard instruction to say you're being provided two transcripts, one from the state and one from the defense, and we can fashion some instructions in that regard if we have to.
Sir, Your Honor.
So that may be something we need to maybe look back at after the lunch break at some point today.
Yeah, come on.
Other than that, is there anything that we need to handle from the state's perspective before the jury comes out? Anything else from the defense perspective?
Judge, if you wanted to inquire now or later, as far as did we go over everything with him over the weekend and do everything that he had requested us to do? If you want to do that now or later, whichever.
What did you go over with him this weekend that you want me to inquire about?
Everything.
Just this issue that we're talking about right now.
Well,
The transcript issue.
The transcript issue, make sure he went over the wire, everything in the wire, as well as what some of the testimony that we thought was going to be presented between today and tomorrow. I spent 4.5, almost 5 hours there yesterday.
Understood. Mr. Quiles, can you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear, affirm, tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? All right, sir, you can put your hand down. So obviously the last week, I think we spoke and I inquired of you Friday afternoon after the jury left, and here we are Monday morning. It sounds like, based off the conversation so far this morning, that your attorneys met with you over the weekend, went over with you the audio from the wire the state intends to present into evidence sometime this week, and also the transcript the state has provided from their position that is an accurate representation of what's on that wire. Did your attorneys go over that with you over the weekend? And they went over with you, and sounds like you and your attorneys pointed out some from the defense contention, some portions of the wire that the defense does not believe is an accurate representation of the wire. Right. Okay. And you heard that conversation that we had with that I had with the attorneys this morning about that. Okay. And they went over that wire with you in full, it sounds like. Okay. Do you have any questions of me?
Yeah, they trying to be
Anything else
slick
you
with
wanna
that
inquire about,
wiring.
Ms.
No, sir, Your Honor.
Ms. Michelle? Anything else you want me to handle outside the jury's presence?
Come on, yeah.
Okay, let's bring the jury in, please.
They were talking about that wiring, y'all, with the brother and the inmate. Mm.
I'm glad you did, because I am trying to find.
Come on. First witness.
Your Honor, the jury is re-entered the court.
Ugh. All right, y'all. If y'all hearing snoring, y'all know it's me now. I ain't been asleep.
You guys may have a seat. Members of the jury, welcome back. Hope you guys had a nice weekend. Feel refreshed, ready to attack the day on this Monday. Unfortunate game yesterday, but the sun is rising and we'll get them back next week. So we're going to continue with our trial here today. Before we begin, can you guys just give me nods of the heads, make sure you guys all have the your correct notepads. Okay. I just wanted to make sure given the weekend. So everyone does have the right notepad. We're going to continue with our trial. And so I'm going to look to the state, and the state can call their next witness.
State would next call Laura Drago.
Who is that, Laura? Sit down, Camper.
Ms. Draga, good morning to you, man. Just watch your step over here as you come to your right. You need a glass of water, let us know. We'll do our best to accommodate you. The only thing I ask, if there's an objection made during your testimony, just pause for a second, let me rule on the objection, and then depending on
Who talking to you?
Thank you, Your Honor.
That said, state you may inquire, you're ready.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Please introduce yourself to the jury.
My name is Laura Draga. The last name is spelled D-R-A-G-A.
Who's your current employer?
The Florida Department of Law Enforcement here in Jacksonville.
How long have you been employed by them?
Since 2006,
What is your current title?
I am a senior crime laboratory analyst in the firearms section.
And is the Florida Department of Law Enforcement commonly referred to the acronym FDLE?
It is.
Can you please tell us about your educational background?
I have a Bachelor of Science in Chemistry and in Biology.
And what are your duties and responsibilities as a senior crime laboratory analyst in the firearms section?
I examine firearms for function, and I examine cartridge cases and bullets to determine whether or not those fired cartridge cases and bullets were fired in the same firearm or multiple firearms. And when a firearm is submitted, I compare those bullets and cartridge cases to test fires to determine whether or not they were fired from a submitted firearm. I also do serial number restorations, and as a senior analyst, I'm the primary trainer for our section.
And outside your formal education, can you describe the training process that you underwent to become originally a crime laboratory analyst in the firearms section?
In 2006, I began an 18-month training program under the supervision of an experienced analyst at FDLE. The initial portion of that training program consisted of reading practical exercises, oral assessments, written assessments, followed by a period of supervised casework where I'm working real cases under the supervision of that more experienced analyst, where they have the primary responsibility for the decisions that are made. And then following the completion of that supervised casework, I was certified to perform independent casework at FDLE.
How many firearms have you analyzed?
In casework, about 1,500.
And during your firearms analysis, is it vary what type of guns that you actually examine?
Yes.
And how does a semi-automatic firearm operate?
So a semi-automatic firearm is one in which once the firearm is loaded, cocked, and the safety is off, the trigger is pressed. Some of the energy of firing, once that trigger is pressed, will be used to expel the bullet from the firearm. Some of the energy will be used to operate the action of that firearm. So if you have forward pressure on the bullet, that pushes it out of the firearm. The rearward pressure will push back on the working parts of the firearm, causing that firearm to extract and eject the fired cartridge case. And then there is a spring which will drive that mechanism back forward again. It will strip a cartridge off of the top of the magazine, loading the firearm again. At that point, you must release and then press the trigger again to fire a semi-automatic firearm. So each shot, again, once the firearm is loaded and ready to be fired, requires a trigger press, you release, a press, a release until the magazine, the ammunition in the magazine is exhausted.
Have you testified before in court giving your opinion on firearm identification and functionality?
I have.
And how many times have you testified in this certain area of firearms?
So I don't actually keep track of like what type of cases I've testified in, but regarding my work at FDLE and the functioning of firearms and the comparison of fired ammunition components and other duties at FDLE, 155 times.
And what courts?
In Florida Circuit Courts.
And how long has the forensic laboratory at FDLE been established?
Since the late 60s.
And how long has FDLE been performing firearm testing?
Since FDLE was founded. When FDLE was founded, we absorbed the Florida Sheriff's Bureau, and firearms testing had been done at the Florida Sheriff's Bureau even prior to it becoming part of FDLE.
And what type of quality assurance methods does your lab take to ensure the reliable results?
So FDLE, particularly the firearms section, has a standard operating procedure that we follow in every case. In addition, we have other quality manuals. There's something actually called the Forensic Science Quality Manual and the Laboratory Administrative Procedures Manual. All of these have procedures that have to be followed, again, in every case. Every case at FDLE is technically and administratively reviewed by another analyst prior to the report being released to the agency.
And did FDLE receive evidence from the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office to analyze a firearm in a case that was labeled victim, and I'm just using initials IS, and JSO CCR number 2018 866278?
We did receive evidence in this case.
And do you recall when FDLE received the evidence involving a firearm and 2 magazines specifically?
According to the paperwork, it was October 3rd of 2019.
How was the evidence received at FDLE?
The agency brings the evidence to our evidence section. The evidence section is staffed by personnel who are responsible for receiving the items of evidence, creating the case in the database, and then moving that evidence to the vault where it waits for the case to be assigned. Once the case is assigned, they can then retrieve the evidence from the vault and give it to the analyst, which in this case would be me. I take the evidence back to my work area, work on it, and then bring it back to that same evidence section where they would return it to the agency.
Is casework randomly assigned?
Mostly, yes.
And does FDLE also assign a unique FDLE number to any item of evidence that's coming into FDLE's possession?
Yes. So when the case is created in the database, it gets a laboratory case number, and then each item of evidence gets a sequential number as it's created in the database.
And was that FDLE number 2019 040 0486?
Yes, it is.
And do you recall when you first received the firearm? I know that it came into the evidence section in October 3rd, 2019.
If I can refer to my notes for a minute.
Will that help refresh your recollection?
Yes.
Hey, how you doing? You're welcome.
I think I may have misspoke, actually. If I can correct the record, the evidence was originally submitted to the laboratory on May 9th of 2019. And I received the evidence and began working on it on October 14th of 2019. I'm sorry, August 14th of 2019.
Thank you for that correction. And how many items did you receive?
Only one.
And
One.
did it have subparts, meaning 2 magazines associated?
Right, so FGLE item 14 was submitted as a 9mm Luger caliber pistol, along with 2 magazines.
What evidence did she have?
Ms. Draghi, I'm showing what's been marked in as state's evidence 37. Can you take a moment and look at it?
Wonder what's in that box.
Do you recognize it?
I do.
And can you show the jury how you recognize the state's evidence 37?
So if you can see that there's a manila tag here, it has my laboratory case number, my item number, and my initials. In addition, are my handwritten case number, item number, and initials on the slide, and also on each of the magazines. There's a separate tag on each of them here, but those tags are not mine.
Now, can you show them also the yellow barcode, how that's associated with all FDLE received items?
So the yellow barcode that you see here is affixed by the evidence section at submission. The barcode is how it's tracked in the database as to who currently has that item.
And the evidence tape that FDLE uses, is that the red tape?
Yes, most of the red tape here is from FDLE, I believe, possibly all of it.
Okay. And there's also, and we'll get to one of the yellow envelopes in just a moment. When you first received State's Evidence 37, what did you do?
When I first received this pistol, the box was opened and inventoried. So in other words, that it contains a pistol and 2 magazines. One of the magazines has a sleeve on it to assist, essentially because it sticks out a little bit at the bottom. So it assists with gripping that. The pistol was evaluated for any defects. The end goal of this examination is to test fire this firearm to see whether or not it's functional. So before I test fire a firearm, I want to make sure that it's safe for me to fire. I also want to note anything about its condition, which is unusual, or things which could affect a comparison later. So defects would be things like cracks in the slide, bulges in the barrel, safeties that aren't working. Condition would be if there's anything in the barrel. For example, if a firearm is very rusty on the inside of the barrel, that could affect my ability to effect an identification, because bullets might not look very similar if they're fired through a rusty barrel. That we make note of prior to being fired. So we just do an overall visual examination and then a mechanical evaluation, again, to be checking things like safeties, making sure that the slide is moving properly so that it can be test fired.
And again, what type of firearm is this, ma'am?
This is a 9mm Luger caliber Ruger semi-automatic pistol.
Was there anything visually of note when you were doing your visual examination of this 9mm Luger pistol?
So the firearm appeared to be overall in good condition. There was oil in the action and on the inside of the bore.
And what does that indicate?
That someone had applied oil to it at some point.
And did you find the gun to be extremely oily?
Unusually oily for what we usually get. It was very oily.
Oh.
What can make a firearm oily?
So oil is used as a preservative with firearms. So some of the residues from firing can be acidic and can actually lead to degradation of the barrel and the parts.
That's what I see.
Soot and debris can lead to the slide not moving properly. In addition, the oils that you leave just from
Wonder why they
touching
messing
things
with the camera.
can lead to rust on the exterior parts. So oil is one way that you can use to help preserve your firearm. And so they sell gun oils that are specific for that purpose.
And are gun oils used to clean a gun?
Yes. So you wouldn't want to use anything that's water-based. Water and steel don't really mix because it leads to rust. So most of the solvents
Oh, good morning, Shelley.
and cleaners are organic, organic solvents and oils.
Was it possible that the gun was extremely oily due to being cleaned recently?
Well, I mean, I will say that the oil that was inside of the barrel would mean that it had not been fired since it had been oiled, because if you fire it, then you will actually clear all of that oil out. The oil will literally get pushed forward out with the bullet, and whatever's left would be combusted, because you have actually flame from the burning gunpowder, and so you'll actually burn all of that off. So if someone were to look at it now, they would see that the inside of the barrel is not oily, because I fired it.
Now, were you able to test fire this 9mm Luger firearm?
I did.
And how many times do you test fire a firearm?
So our procedure says that we will test fire it at least twice, and that's so that we can compare the two test fires to each other, to evaluate them for entry into a database and to evaluate them for
I don't
suitability
understand it.
to compare to other items.
And how many times did you test fire in this case?
If I can check my notes to make sure, I believe only twice.
Does that help refresh your recollection?
It would. Yes, in this case, the usual twice.
And after you test fired this 9mm Luger firearm, what did you opine regarding its functionality?
The firearm is in working order.
And when you say working order, does that mean that you had no issues with firing this gun?
Yeah, there were no problems noted during the test firing of this firearm.
And what do you do with those fired cartridge cases?
So if I can, the fired cartridge cases are returned in a test fire envelope to the agency along with the firearm. This envelope contains my test fires in this case, to include the fired cartridge cases as well as the fired bullets. The bullets are recovered using a water recovery tank, and that allows us to essentially slow the bullet down so that we can recover and effectively an undamaged bullet.
Still confused. Now she said the gun wasn't used. That one right there.
Ms. Draga, after you had test fired the firearm, what is the chain of custody at that point?
So the firearm is sealed at completion of the case and returned to the evidence section. The evidence section has a responsibility to return
Good morning.
any items of evidence to the agency. So they actually come to our laboratory and pick it up, or it's mailed back. In the case of the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, they come and pick up all of their evidence.
Thank you, ma'am. No further questions.
But she said, then she said Chicago that the one that oily wasn't used.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here. Just a few follow-up questions for you. I just want to kind of summarize essentially what you did in this particular case with this firearm that you've been shown is test fired and make sure it properly operated.
Yes.
Okay. You did in fact test fire that firearm and confirm that it does operate.
Yes.
And my understanding is that there was a little bit of a mix-up as it relates to you returning those test fire bullets at the end of your analysis initially, correct?
Yes.
You did not in fact return those test fires with the firearm as your initial report indicated.
Correct. So ordinarily, when everything goes back, we do an inventory of what we have. So I get a gun and 2 magazines. At the conclusion of my case, I want to make sure that I have a gun and 2 magazines in the case, all that the case numbers match. There's the container is labeled, that the items are labeled. And so every time that I return a gun, as long as it works, I'm going to have a test fire envelope. In this case, there was a little bit of material that was inside of the barrel. I didn't know what it was, but as I said, anytime that you test fire a gun, you're going to want to, sorry, not you're going to want to, but anything that's there is going to be gone because the bullet is going to push it out. And then the gas is going to really burn up anything that's there. So I did remove a small amount of an unknown material from the inside of the barrel. With that said, because I'm removing the material, it's not something that I'm keeping for me. It was placed into an envelope. So when I did my inventory of, I have a gun, I have my 2 magazines, and I have an envelope, I made a mistake and didn't double check the envelope to make sure that it was my test fires. So my test fires remained in my cabinet. I sealed up the box. I sent the box back to the Jacksonville Sheriff's, to the evidence section, who sent it back to the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. At a later date, I found the test fire envelope in my cabinet and realized that that test fire should have been returned with the box. Contact was made with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office and my supervisor and the evidence section. We arranged that the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office should resubmit the firearm and that the test fires could be returned with the item of evidence. So that was documented through the quality system. That was documented through the supervisor. It went pretty much all the way up to our quality manager in Tallahassee. So yes, there was a misstep with the ordinary steps of operation, which would be that the test fires would be returned with the firearm. However, in this case, they were returned at a later time. They remained in my exam area. I have my own office, which is lockable with a swipe card. So it's essentially a locked area that I have access to. And those test fires remained in my office for that period of time when they should have been already
She's
in the
saying
Jacksonville
too
Sheriff's
much.
Office.
Understood. And you did say, as you mentioned, you did correct that and have a supplemental report basically to explain what you just gave to the jury, correct?
Yes. So the original report stated that the test fires would be returned with the firearm. So an amended report was issued stating that the test fires had not been returned as the report had indicated that they would be. And then because the item of evidence had to be brought back into the laboratory, an additional report describing that now we're adding the test fires to the box was also issued. So there's 3 reports in this case. The original one describing the test firing of the firearm, that it functioned. The second report correcting the remarks, and the third report describing that the test fires were being added back to the box.
Thank you so much for clearing that up. Now you said that, well, let me ask you one other question. When you received that firearm, you don't know anything about it other than that this is your job to analyze this firearm, correct?
I mean, there may be information in the case comments, but in this case, I don't believe that there was a lot of information about where the firearm had come from or, where it was found. I don't think I knew that in this case.
All right. And so you don't know who owned it, who fired it, when it was last fired, or anything along those lines?
No. So like I said, I would say it had not been fired since it was last oiled, but that could have been a week prior, a month prior, or a year prior. I don't know, but not since the last cleaning.
Understood. And so speaking about the oil, you said that it was generally clean, but it was a little oily or very oily in your opinion, correct?
Yes.
You can't tell us if that oil was cleaning oil, if it was the preservative oil that you described or anything like that?
No, I didn't do any analysis as to the type of oil that it was.
Okay. So it could have just been regular preservative oil that you put, as you described, in order to keep the gun operating, functioning properly, correct?
I don't have any reason to suspect that it's anything but
that.
But yes, the preservative oil. But I don't know what kind of oil it was, but I don't expect that it's.
I don't understand that part.
What you said.
Thank you. You stated that just when you were kind of explaining the mishap with the test fires, that you observed kind of a unknown material in the barrel of the gun, correct?
Correct.
You communicated with the biology section within your organization, FDLE, to ask for them to take a look at that, correct?
Yes, I did.
And in fact, someone from the biology section, Mr. Nicholas Kutu, did come and look at that and to analyze that for you, correct?
Well, yeah, just to look at it.
Okay. He did in fact look at it.
He did.
And he decided not to do anything, correct?
Correct.
He didn't take any swabs. He didn't do anything with it. He said it wasn't anything whatsoever.
Well, he said it, I'm sorry, I don't know how to get into what he said without
Well,
going
that's
getting
fine.
into
You don't have to
hearsay,
tell me that. But
but
didn't take any
he
swabs.
declined,
Sorry, I'm over talking. Go ahead.
he declined to swab it.
As far as the gun itself, the reason why you were doing test fires, just to maintain that it was operating properly, is because you didn't have anything to compare it to. You didn't have any bullet fragments or anything like that, correct?
Correct. In this case, I received no fired cartridge cases and no fired bullets.
And as far as what you found in your analysis, there was nothing of relevance to any sort of murder occurring that you discovered.
So the only thing that I can really say in this case is observations that it's an oily firearm. The firearm appears to be in normal working order. I test fired it and it functioned properly while I test fired it.
Thank you. Nothing further.
But that still ain't saying nothing.
Mr. Draga, Mr. Draga, good to see you, ma'am. Have a good rest of your day.
Your Honor.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
She ready to go.
You can call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Edward Smallfeld.
I mean, really, she ain't really say nothing. She just the gun was in good shape to use. That's all I heard. And it had a lot of oil on it inside. Sure did.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, good morning to you. Just watch your step as you come forward to your right. Need a glass of water, let us know. We'll do our best to accommodate you. The only thing I ask is that if there's an objection made during the course of your testimony, just pause and let me rule on the objection, and then we'll go from there.
Yes, sir.
With that said, state your name, quiet, you're ready.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
You please introduce yourself to the jury.
My name is Edward Schmalfeld. I'm the general manager at Otis Road Landfill.
All right, and just generally speaking, where is the Otis Road landfill?
It's on the west side of Jacksonville, off of Otis Road, near Beaver Street.
And sir, with respect to your position as general manager, what are your duties there as a general manager?
In charge of overall operation of the landfill, every aspect of it, from financial down to what the employees are doing out in the field.
And how long have you been working in that capacity?
At Otis Road, I've been there just over 5 years.
How about working in this field? How long have you worked?
Since 2008, I've worked in landfills.
Now, do you live here in Jacksonville, sir?
Yes, sir.
How long have you lived in Jax?
Since in Jacksonville area, just over 5 years as well. But I've been in Northeast Florida since 1993.
All right. Now, sir, I want to direct your attention to January 15, 2019, moving forward about 3 weeks to February 6 of 2019. Do you recall that time period, sir?
Yes, sir.
Were you working in the same capacity?
Hey, Georgia. Looking for quality, affordable health insurance? At georgiaaccess.gov, there are many great ways to find a plan that meets your needs and budget. Open enrollment begins November 1st.
Oh.
At that initial conversation they did, they were asking general questions about the landfill, and we're looking at possibly doing a search, yes.
All right, and did you cooperate and assist the police?
Absolutely.
Now, when you first were speaking with the police, did you kind of give them an idea of how the landfill itself is operated?
Yes, sir.
Right? Did you go through them, the general summary procedure of how waste comes in?
Yes, sir.
Is that still the same procedure that's in effect even today?
Yes.
All right. Can you give our jury just sort of a brief walkthrough of, like, if a truck pulls up there with waste, take us from there. What happens next?
Sure. So we have a truck come in. We have a scale house up front. It's the first thing you see when you come to the facility. The trucks will pull up on the scale. We have scale house attendants who talk to them. They'll identify their company, what their truck number is, where they're coming from, if they're like Duval County, Clay County, and then if they have any other special information like project numbers or whatnot. Once they do that, they'll be weighed in. We'll give them a scale ticket, and they'll be directed to the active working area of the landfill. And once they get up there, we have heavy equipment operators and sometimes a spotter who's directing them exactly where to go. And once they get into their spot, they tip, where they dump their load out onto the on top of other garbage. At which time, once they pull out, we'll have a bulldozer come, and they will push the garbage kind of wherever we're working in that day, because we're building it up as we go. And once that happens, we have a landfill compactor that's about twice as big as a bulldozer, has big cleated wheels. It rolls over the garbage. We're trying to pack it in as tight as we can so that we don't waste all that space. And we kind of rinse and repeat all day long.
Yes, sir. Now, excuse me, just a couple questions about that procedure. When someone pulls in a truck, do you in any way have your staff search the vehicles before they come in?
No, it's all in a can. It's very hard. Not every truck even has an open top. We do have cameras that generally look at the truck, but we depend on the drivers to identify what they have. And then once they get up on top, we can, we work with it from there. We can see it. But at the scale house, that's the limit of what we can do.
Now, with respect to I think you called it a weight ticket that they receive, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Once they received a weight ticket, how are they directed where to go inside the landfill?
Initially, it's by the scale house attendant. They'll tell them where to go. Sometimes if we've changed up something, we'll give them a map on where to go. And then we have signs along the way that direct them where to go.
All right. And you mentioned once the waste is pushed out of their particular vehicle, it's you do it in levels. It's piled one on top of the other. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. We try to do 5 to 7 foot lifts as we go to build up to our engineered design elevations.
And you also mentioned you had what's called a landfill compactor that packs it in tighter. Can you explain specifically what's the general purpose for doing that?
So for a landfill, we have this imaginary bubble on top, and that's as much garbage as we're allowed to put into it for the whole life of the site. And so our goal from the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, and obviously as a business, we want to maximize how much garbage we can put in there. So we try to densify that garbage to make it as tight as possible. We get about 1,400 to 1,600 pounds per 3x3x3 area. So we try to get it as tight as we can.
And can you give our jury a sort of an estimate of the height that you build the waste up to, generally speaking?
It changes as we go, but as our permit is now, it's about 150 feet total height when we're finished with it.
Now, can you give us an idea of how many trucks are coming into the landfill on a daily basis as an estimate?
So at that time, it would have been somewhere around 150 to 200 trucks per day on a normal day.
And would that have been the approximate trucks arriving during the time period that we're talking about, December of 18 and January of 19?
Yes, sir, approximately.
That's an estimate at that time?
Yes.
Right. Now, what specifically would you need to know to be able to tell the police where specifically to search in the landfill?
First and foremost, I need to know the date. What day are we talking about? Obviously, with that many trucks coming in, we move periodically. So I need to know the date, and then knowing the truck and company that brought it in. would allow us to go and look at our scale house records to verify that it actually did come in.
All right.
Those are the two big pieces of information.
And we've already had some testimony about that, but did the police advise you of a date?
Yes.
Did they advise you of the company that brought the waste in?
Yes, it was actually our sister company, the hauling company, and they told us the location it came from. Yes, sir.
Was that All American, the sister company?
Yes.
And I think it's already been established as well, but did the waste they were looking for come from Ace Pick Apart?
It did.
Did those factors help you in sort of pinpointing to the police where to conduct their search?
Yes, sir.
All right. In general, how big is the entire landfill?
So at that time, we were working on a footprint of about 8 acres. The whole cell that we're working on was 10 acres, but we hadn't finished it all yet. So about 8 acres was the working area.
Okay. Now, with the factors that you had, the date they were looking for the particular waste, the company that delivered it, and where it came from, the business where it came from. With those 3 factors, explain to our jury how you're able to tell them where to go in that particular landfill. Is there a method to this?
So there's a couple tools we used. First, we fly aerials of the landfill pretty much on a monthly basis with a drone. So I could refer back to the prior one. Second, we have an engineered sequence that we put garbage in. So it's already designed kind of where we go. So that's another tool. We can vary a little bit, but that's another tool. And third, just being out there every day. We know we don't just plan one day ahead of time. We're looking at 6 months at a time. So it was very easy kind of to say, hey, over the last 3 or 4 weeks, we've been working in this area.
All right. Is it safe to say the entire landfill is a massive area?
Oh, absolutely. Right now, we're already at 40 acres. It's huge, especially when looking for small things.
It's a strip, yeah.
In December 2018, leading into January 2019, I think you described it as how many acres at that time?
The landfill itself was about 8 acres of usable space at that time.
All right. Of those acres, could you tell us where specifically you sent the police and the acreage that you directed them to assist them in their search?
Sure. It was, it would have been kind of on the western portion, middle of the landfill. It was, I think we estimated it around 3 to 4 acres was kind of the general area that we were searching.
And if the police came to you in January 15 of 2019 and you knew they were looking back at the date of December 19 of 2018, how far down did you give them as an estimate to do their search to look for that area of waste?
So we looked at all of our tonnage that had come in between those 2 periods and looked at kind of how well we were packing it. We came up with about 20 feet, 25 feet, somewhere right in that range.
So did you then give the police the 3 to 4 acre period and a 20 feet depth length to conduct their search?
We did. Yeah. We isolated it immediately when they said they were going to want to do a search. So when we knew that, we isolated the area.
So is that a massive undertaking?
It was yes. I mean, we debated on if we actually had to potentially close the landfill temporarily, because taking out half of our total footprint and you don't get to work on all that, it was a substantial thing. Having kind of 2 operations going at once, it was outside the norm. We actually even contacted the Florida Department of Environmental Protection just to make sure we legally could do the search and continue to operate.
Yes, sir. Now, once the search began, just a few more questions for you, sir. Once the search began, what was your role during that time period from mid-January to early February? What were you doing to aid the police?
Lots. So they initially had their entire team come out. I guess it was the search management team. And first thing we did is we went over a lot of safety concerns that I had. Obviously, it's a landfill. It's lots of pointy and sharp things, potential for somebody to get injured. They talked about what they thought the process would be to do the search, asked my thoughts on that. I provided my feedback. Then once they started the search on a daily basis, there was a morning briefing. I was part of that, especially as they brought new searchers in and just reiterating the safety aspects of what's going on and explaining how the rest of the landfill is running, just so we don't, again, get anybody injured. During the search, My team was using the heavy equipment that worked hand in hand with the search teams, and we would excavate and spread out the garbage that was going to be searched. And once it was cleared, we would take that and put it over to another designated area so it wouldn't get commingled with, the search area. We didn't want to search the same material twice. And then there was a debrief at the end of every day that I was part of. And then there were a couple off-site meetings downtown here. I think the sheriff was at one or two of them, just kind of with updates. So we were part of that as well. And then me and my team were actually out there, getting dirty, getting our boots dirty and helping however we could with the search team, especially when you get into some of these deeper areas. It's a little more dangerous. You got to be more familiar with what you're doing.
Yes, sir. And then the last couple issues for you. The type of waste. Will you describe for our jury what you allow or what is permitted inside the Otis Road landfill?
Sure. We are what the DEP calls a Class 3 landfill, which allows us to take construction and demolition debris, which is probably about 85% of the material we get, which is cardboard, 2x4s, drywall, sheet, all that kind of stuff, concrete. We also can take some soils and things like that, but the big thing that we don't take is food waste, any kind of waste that can break down, create an odor. We don't take liquids, but it's primarily construction and demolition debris.
And because you don't take food waste, does that generally keep the active bird life, like buzzards, from infecting the various areas of your landfill?
Correct. Yeah, we rarely have birds, and if we ever do see a bird, that's when we kind of key in if somebody brought in something they weren't supposed to, and we have to go get it and take it out of the landfill.
All right. And can you give the jury an idea of a few major companies and or contracts you have to kind of explain the types of waste that would come in there?
Sure. So we really work with every company you see driving down the road, except Waste Management in general. So Republic Services is a big one. Now it's GFL Environmental, but it used to be All American Roll-Off. So they're roll-off trucks. They're the big cans that you see when they're building homes and whatnot. That is primarily what we get at our landfill. Sometimes we'll get some dump trucks, but all the major companies within Jacksonville bring in material, as well as smaller, like the Ace Pick Apart, like they're one-offs, but they're brought in by one of the larger companies as well.
All right. And what do you mean by a one-off?
They're not like this national, they have one location. So we have numerous customers who just have a office or a construction yard. They have one can that is sitting there that gets picked up.
Is a good example of the type of waste you receive Goodwill?
That is a waste that we do get, but I wouldn't say that's a good example of the typical waste. It's more construction waste. Goodwill does come in, but they're really the only type of person who routinely brings in that type of waste, which is a lot of furniture, carpet, boys' clothes, that sort of thing.
Yes, sir. And then lastly, were you able to, and if so, first explain how you were able to add up all the tonnage, all the amount of waste that was searched by the sheriff's office during those approximately 3-week period?
So we looked at it a couple different ways. One, obviously the drone flights were going over, so you can do calculations based off of the flights, looking at what it was before and where it was at the end. And also looking at the hole that we dug, knowing that, okay, it's about this long, this wide, this deep. You can do a calculation of the approximate amount of waste that was taken out. And then on a daily basis, we would look at how many buckets the excavator took out and kind of estimate it. So use multiple methodologies, and they kind of all corresponded. So we felt comfortable. It was give or take that I think it was 5,000 to 5,500 tons that we thought we went through.
And for our record, just to make sure it's clear, what is a ton? How much is that?
2,000 pounds.
You did 5,500 tons of garbage and waste searching.
Yes, sir.
One moment, Your Honor.
It's a strap yard, y'all. I done been in one of them with this guy before. You get money too. You get paid for doing that too.
Sir, can you lastly just give us a, you know what the police were looking for.
Yes.
And you know the area that was covered. Would you describe that as like looking for a needle in a haystack?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, based off of the time from initial notification to when we kind of got down to that 20-foot depth, extremely difficult. I've had instances in the past where somebody has come in and they knew exactly the truck. They got there before the truck and we still couldn't find it in an individual truck. Obviously different types of things. It was a purse or something like that. It's very, very difficult to find anything once it hits the ground at the landfill, you know, especially 3 or 4 weeks out.
Yes, sir. One moment.
Broomsticks. So he work at a strap yard.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
All right, let me just follow up on a few things here. So I know that you guys actually started searching January 15th of 2019, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
But you actually had stopped, you got notification that they wanted to search almost a week, maybe even a week and a half earlier than that, correct?
Approximately, yes, ma'am.
And so at that time, when you received notification that police were wanting to search the area, you guys no longer dumped in that area where you believed this particular dumpster that they were looking for had been in, correct?
Correct, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So did you cordon that area off essentially to make sure that no further activity happened where you would be searching?
We put some berms of dirt up around the area, and then at the scale house, they directed the trucks, the new location to go, and the heavy equipment operators made sure they went there.
Okay. As far as the type of waste, I know you described being class 3 and Goodwill in particular. So it would not have been abnormal for clothing to be in that search area that you isolated for this particular search.
No, ma'am.
And you actually were a part of the search for most of those days, if not all of the days that police were searching at the landfill.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you actually were in the hole, like physically there, seeing and observing what was being pulled out and kind of managing, making sure safety procedures were followed and things along those lines, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you actually saw the excavators taking out pieces and kind of laying it out in the search of what was in there.
Yes, ma'am.
And so did you yourself observe clothing and other items, typical things that you would see as well with construction materials?
Yes, ma'am. There was a mixture.
I know that you talked about kind of how you got to this particular area, this depth, this amount of acreage that we're going to search. My question for you is, when you came to that conclusion, that wasn't something that you just guessed or estimated, right? You actually used the scaler that when people come in to determine how many tons had come in at that time to get to that estimate.
Yes, ma'am.
So there was actual data that you referenced and looked to so that you'd be confident that you were in the right area and searching the amount that was sufficient to be able to get to that dumpster that they were looking for.
Yep, to the best of our ability. Yes, ma'am.
And during that search, I know you've talked about it being more than 5,500 tons that you guys went through, which is a massive amount to search, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. In going through that, you were confident that you reached the area that dumpster would have dumped in, correct?
We were in the, yes, I think we were within the area that we had established to start with. In terms of the length and width area, for sure. In terms of depth, that was our initial kind of calculation assumption. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then as far as that amount that you gave, 20 feet deep, 3 to 4 acres, you actually overestimated the amount to make sure that that December 20th dumpster would be included, correct?
Yes, ma'am. And more the length and width, just because we wanted to, be thorough, and things can get pushed a little bit to the side, so we want to make sure it was all inclusive.
Question for him.
And just to confirm, the 5,500 tons that you searched would have covered that 3 to 4 acres and 20 feet deep area that you estimated, correct?
It should have. Yes, ma'am.
And throughout that search where you were physically there, you never did recover any sort of body or anything like that, correct?
No, ma'am, we did not cover her body.
I just want to know.
And I just want to kind of go back because
Time.
I know you said that now it's like 40 acres, it's quite a bit larger. It was quite small at the time compared to other landfills and dump sites, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry.
It was. I'm sorry.
No,
it
right.
was. It was closer to the start of the landfill, so we were much smaller back then, especially compared to the other landfills in Jacksonville.
Okay. And I know you said that you did confirm that that particular dumpster came from Ace Pick Apart.
Yes, ma'am. That's what the scale house ticket indicated, and that was the normal route, I guess, routine for that truck.
And the type of waste that you would receive from Ace Pick Apart was kind of a mixture of a lot of things. Is that accurate?
Yes, ma'am. It would have been, if I recall, it was auto parts, boxes, cardboard, that sort of material.
Including anything that might be inside the vehicle as well, emptying out the contents of any vehicles that they might receive.
Yes, ma'am. Potentially, yes.
As far as the presence of any sort of buzzards or things like that, in your experience, you said that, you know, if you did notice them, which you did from time to time, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. If you did notice them, then that would be an indication to you that maybe food waste or something like that was there.
Potentially, yes, ma'am.
Because that's the type of waste that you don't receive or don't allow to come into your facility.
Correct.
Okay. In those cases, you would then go out, as you said, and actually remove that food waste or materials that you don't allow.
We would try to locate it, yes, and if we could, we would dig it out.
Okay, so for example, if there was something dumped that was not supposed to be there that would attract buzzards and then it was compacted down, if during a search that then is being pulled up and exposed, would that cause buzzards to come into that area?
I would potentially, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so it doesn't mean necessarily that there was a body there.
Correct.
It could just mean that there was food waste there that shouldn't have been there.
Yeah, potentially, yes, ma'am.
One moment, Your Honor.
Another thing too, y'all. They smashed it. That trash too.
No redirect. Thank you, sir.
And they stats.
Sir, good to see you.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of your
You
day.
too. Thank you.
State, you can call your next witness.
There you go.
Yes, sir. The state of Florida would call Johnathan Lindros.
Members of the jury will probably take a break at the conclusion of this witness, depending on the length or maybe the middle. We'll see how it go.
Jergens Essential Oil Body Butter Collection. The feel-good feeling of Jergens.
I still got some questions.
I do. Right this way, sir. We here to your right, Mr. Lindros. Good morning to you, sir. Hope you're doing well. If you need a glass of water, let us know. We'll do our best to accommodate you.
Yes, please.
Mr. Gray will certainly take care of you for that. If there's an objection made during the course of your testimony, just pause. Let me roll in the objection first, and then we'll go from there, okay?
Yes.
That said, state, you may inquire ready.
Thank you, sir. Give me one moment.
Thank you.
Okay, please, the court. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
State your name, please, sir.
Johnathan Lindros,
Where are you employed?
Ace Pick Apart.
And can you tell us how long you've been employed at Ace?
Approximately 7 years.
All right. What is your title there, sir?
I'm the general manager.
And do you share that responsibility or role with your brother?
Yes.
Is he also a general manager?
Yes, sir.
Is that Gary Lindros?
Yes, sir.
All right. Will you spell your last name for us, please?
Lindros.
All right. Now, Mr. Lindros, would you tell us what your responsibilities are there at Ace as general manager?
General management duties of the facility, the outside production workers, some HR responsibilities, including advertising and interviewing for new employees, and general HR roles.
Is your supervision generally of what we'll refer to as outside employees?
Primarily, yes.
Okay. What do you supervise also the in-office employees?
Yes, I do.
Can you just give us a general breakdown of approximately how many outside employees you have versus inside employees?
Outside employees, about 16 or 17. Inside would probably be about 10.
We got a big facility.
Is there a supervisor in between your level, general manager, and the outside employees? And I'm specifically asking about December of 18 to January of 19.
There was a supervisor employed at that time, Larry Carlson. He was out on leave for surgery at the time for a couple of months. So he was not there at that time. So at that time, the answer would be no.
So during the time period of December of 2018 through January of 2019, did the 16 outside employees direct supervisor, was he not there on a daily basis?
Correct. He was not there.
Were you standing in his stead and doing his job during that time period?
Yes, sir.
Was that in addition to your duties?
Yes, sir.
As general manager?
Correct.
Now, just in general for our jury, I know we've already seen a little bit of some photographs. What kind of business is this? Explain what you're doing there, you and your brother.
It's a combination automotive recycling business and retail sales of used auto parts.
All right. And at any given time, approximately how many vehicles, again, focusing on the late 18 going into 2019 year, approximately how many vehicles would be on your property or premises during that time?
Somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000 at that time.
Now, with respect to areas of restricted access versus open to the public access, the jury's going to watch some videos later, but just in general, will you tell us, sort of explain the difference of those areas within the business?
We have a retail shopping area when customers come onto the facility where they would go to the cars and pick the parts off the cars themselves while they're shopping. And then we have our production areas where the cars are cleaned, drained, crushed, that type of thing.
And approximately, just on any random day, is it pretty busy there?
Yes.
Could you give us an estimate, maybe how many customers come through there on a daily basis?
During the week, 200, 250 on a daily basis. On the weekend, depending if we have a sale or not, it could be between 350 and 600 people per day.
Right. Now, will you give us a general idea of what the 16 employees that work outside in the yards, what sort of how that's categorized? Are they working in teams? Are they working as 16 individuals? Explain that.
We have a production flow. We get approximately 40 to 50 cars dropped off at our facility per day. 40 to 50 cars get crushed per day. When a car comes in, we'll have a couple of guys clean the garbage out of the cars, take the battery out of the cars. And we have a couple of guys that are draining the fluids out of the cars. And then we have a team that is taking those cars and setting them in the roads in the retail production area. We have a team of 2 people that are pulling those cars from the older cars that are ready to go to the crusher. The team of pulling those cars to go to the crusher area. Then we have a couple of people that are working our tire station to remove tires from rims, working our excavator, which is a big excavating machine with a claw to rip the motors out of the cars, and some wiring harness out of the cars. And then we have a team of people that would be putting the cars in the crusher, crushing the cars, and preparing them to be shipped out for recycling.
Yeah, that's right.
Of the 16 employees, are almost all of them working as a pair or in a somewhat of a team?
I would say that is correct. Yes.
Are there exceptions to that?
Exception would be if we had someone who would be a fix-it guy, a facilities type person, Just might be given individual projects. Hey, go do this. Hey, go do that. Maybe working on equipment, servicing equipment, that type of thing. That kind of person would not be working on a team like people in the production workflow.
Sir. I want to show you, we get a little old school on you, show you a blown up map that's previously been admitted into evidence as State's Exhibit 32. Sir, do you see this map?
Yes, sir, I see it.
And will you give our jury, first and foremost, the road that's running right down the middle of State 32? What is that? What road is that?
Now, you're referring to Main Street?
The two yellow lines right down the middle.
Yes, sir, that would be Main Street.
Okay. And for a record, I'm going to draw my finger around your entire facility. You tell me if this is correct.
No.
Okay.
That is you drew your finger around the kind of the retail area.
Your Honor, may I have him step down?
That may be helpful.
If you could step down, sir.
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Skinner, before you go, counsel, feel free to reposition yourself as you deem necessary. Mr. Skinner, why don't you give counsel a chance real quick?
Absolutely, Your Honor. I'll wait just a moment.
Ms. Michelle, you can go either way, whatever you feel.
Stay out of the way of the jury.
So first, just tell us in State 32, what is this road down the middle?
Main Street.
And what do we see up here?
That is Dew Parkway or Hector Parkway.
All right. And if you would, just point to us and draw a line around your entire company.
Okay.
We can't see.
All right. And if you now would point to us where the point of entry to turn into your business in off of the road.
This is a drainage ditch with a railroad track. This is the only point of entry right here.
All right. One way in and one way out.
Right.
And where do employees park?
Employees park anywhere in this parking lot right here.
All right. And the area that's at the top of this exhibit, it looks like it's somewhat unpaved. What is this area in the top portion?
That used to be a cement factory that was unoccupied for many years. We purchased it. We now use it for our, we call it the downstream production. This is where the cars are currently crushed. At that time, to the best of my recollection, that was the time shortly after we bought it. So we weren't doing our production there yet, but we were storing some cars there, maybe cleaning cars out, that kind of thing.
In 2018, in December, leading into January 2019, where were cars being crushed at that time?
At that time, cars are being crushed in this area right here.
All right. And will you now point to us where the main office where you generally work on a day-to-day basis is?
This is the main office right here.
All right. And then is the rest of the property where I'm drawing my finger around, is this where these, I think you said thousands of cars are on any given day in your business?
Yes, that's the retail shopping area that you drew your finger around.
All right.
So there's about 2,500 cars there, and cars waiting to go in that area could be about another 500.
So I'm now going to draw my finger on the bottom right-hand portion in this
Can't
exhibit
see.
of your property. What is this area? What is done over there?
At the time,
Yes, sir.
over here is where the cars are graded. That area is where the excavating and the crushing is going on.
All right. Thank you, sir. Do you know an individual that became known to you in October of 2018 as Johnathan Quiles?
Yes, sir.
And who is he to you?
An employee of Ace Pick Apart, former employee.
Do you see him in the courtroom today, sir?
I do.
Can you describe where he's seated and an article of clothing he's wearing?
He's seated to the right side of the courtroom. I see a white shirt from here, pulled back hair.
Yes, sir. May the record reflect. He's identified the defendant.
So reflected.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Lindros, when was the defendant hired at your company?
In October 2018.
All right. Was he employed there from October of 2018 up until approximately January 8th of 2019?
Yes.
Is that about almost 3 months?
Yes, sir.
What were his specific responsibilities?
He would fill in for somebody if they were out. That might have been any of the roles we discussed. Draining cars, setting cars, pulling cars, crushing cars. So kind of a filling person if somebody called out. He did have knowledge in a few different fields, whether it was electrical or plumbing. So he was, I would call my project / facilities person. He might have been moving a fence line, servicing equipment.
Good morning,
been
Mayor.
All right. Of the 16 outside employees, first, was he one of them?
Yes.
During those 3 months?
Yes.
And of those 16 outside employees, was he ever on a team of 2 or more, or did he always work as a solo employee?
It's a while ago. To the best of my recollection, was he in one of those roles right at the beginning? I don't think so. If he was filling in for somebody on a particular day, he would have been on that team for that day. But overall, in general, the answer would be no.
So just so our record's clear, because I asked you in the or manner, overall, generally, is he working by himself?
Yes.
Yeah.
Was he a punctual employee?
Yes.
Did he work hard?
Yes.
Now, did there come a time, sir, that he brought to your attention some fencing defects or fencing holes or areas where fencing might need some repairs on your premises?
Yes.
Did he send you something?
Yes.
You recall to this day whether it was a text or did he hand it to you, or can you recall?
To the best of my recollection, well, I know, not to my recollection, I know that he handed me a piece of paper of a map that he made.
All right. So now I want to show you what's been admitted into evidence and marked as State's Exhibit number 30. Do you recognize this, sir?
Yes.
What do you recognize that to be?
That's a map that he gave me regarding possible defects in the fence.
Is it at all possible to tell today what date he handed that to you?
This was made on the computer.
Okay.
So this is probably something that I made based off of what he handed me.
Okay.
So do I remember when he handed me his hand-drawn map? No.
All right. Was it during those 90 days or so that he was employed for you?
Yes.
All right. And would you, I'm going to show it to the jury in a second, but will you describe what's around the edges, what is actually drawn on this particular exhibit?
Well, the whole entire property is surrounded by, I guess to say, an 8-foot tall, blue paneled, corrugated steel fence. There are certain places where employees might try to steal something. Maybe there's a gap underneath the fence, something to that effect. And the defendant was pointing out where the weak points in the fence or security might be.
Did he point that out directly to you?
Yes.
Or did you and or him or both make these markings on this exhibit?
This particular piece of paper looks like I took what he handed me and went on the computer and generated this with the photo.
And were you certain it was the defendant that was pointing these spots out?
Absolutely, yes.
Is there a blue line drawn around the entire property?
Most of the property, yes.
Okay. Within the line, are there circled blue dots on the line?
Yes, sir.
Are those the areas that the defendant was pointing out to you where there were either some sort of a area of the fence that needed repairs?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Members of the jury, I think I failed to tell you this earlier. All evidence that's been admitted during the trial will be given to you during your deliberation, so you will get as much time as you need to review this evidence at a later date. I think I failed to tell you that earlier, but just so your knowledge.
Your Honor, because it's so faint, may I publish this to the back row? Let them look at it.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
I wonder how that trash been smashed. By then, what year it was smashed, what month it was smashed. How long was it smashed before that? What was his smash day? Well, when was his dump day? December.
Now, Mr. Lindrose, with respect to this particular item, was one of the defendant's duties to fix areas of fencing that might need repairing on your premises? Is that a job he did?
He would do any type of facilities thing that we asked him to do.
Would that be one of them?
Yes.
With regard to where the defendant was allowed to go on your property and or premises, did he have unrestricted access to every inch of your premises?
Yes, sir.
Would it be unusual to find him in the far back corner or in the office?
It wouldn't be unusual.
Now, Mr. Lindrose, was there a particular day that when he brought you this particular item, can you even recall whether it was near the beginning of his employment, like the middle of his employment, or toward the end of his employment?
Closer to the middle.
All right. So at least he'd been there approximately a month and a half or so.
At least.
All right.
Okay.
So he started in October of 2018. Best your recollection today is he provided that information to you in November of 2018.
It could have been later than that, but it was at least November.
All right. And maybe leading into the early part of December of 2018?
Yes, sir.
Fair enough. Okay. Now, did he have a timesheet?
Yes, sir.
Could you explain for our jury what you expect and demand of your employees with respect to how they clock in and clock out?
Everyone has a time card. When they arrive at the facility, they grab their time card and clock into the time machine. They should clock in at the beginning of the day when they arrive. They should clock out when they leave for lunch, clock in when they return from lunch, and clock out at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Right? And they're told that.
Yes, sir.
Would the defendant have been told that?
Yes, sir.
So if we see him on video later leaving in the middle of the day and he doesn't clock out, that would be at a minimum against your policy.
Yes, sir.
Now, with respect to the time machine, the time clock itself, where is that located at that time?
We did move some operations. I'm trying to remember at that time. Currently, it's located in that cement factory area. At that time, I think it may have been located closer to where we saw the production on near the drain rack, and there's a yellow house in that area.
All right. Well, let me eliminate some other places. At that time, was it in the office?
It was never in the office.
Fair enough. So you never had to come into the office to punch your time card?
No, sir.
You mentioned the employee parking was running along the front part of the business. Is that always where the defendant parked that you were aware of?
As far as I was aware, that's where he always parked, in the same parking lot that the customers park in.
Generally speaking, can you describe for us very generally what vehicle you remember him driving at that time?
I remember it was a red minivan.
Now, with respect to the time clock, is it something that once you clock in, it reflects a time and produces a ticket?
Yes, sir. You have one ticket for the whole week, and throughout the week, you punch in and punch out as you come and go.
All right. Sir, now I want to show you what's been marked as State Exhibit 65. It has been admitted into evidence. So there's the state number.
Sir?
And do you recognize that exhibit, sir?
Yes, sir, I do.
What is this?
That is Jonathan's time card for that week.
And by Johnathan, you mean the defendant, Johnathan Quiles?
Yes, sir.
What name does it have at the top?
J, I thought it was Quiles, but Quiles.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And it says at the top right, pay period ending with a blank. What date is this the pay period ending for the defendant?
That would be the Sunday at the end of that week.
Okay. And what is the date on there?
December 23rd, 2018.
All right. Are there rows of time that he punched in prior to this leading up to December 23rd, 2018?
I'm sorry, prior to.
So this says pay period ending December 23rd of 18.
Right.
Are there dates and times reflecting when he arrived leading up to that particular date?
Yes, sir.
All right, let me let you hold that exhibit, and I'm directing your attention to December 19 of 2018. What time did the defendant clock in on that day?
8:08.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. On the 19th?
Yes, sir.
8:08 a.m.
Oh, okay. 8:08 a.m. What time did he clock out on December 19, 2018?
5:09 p.m.
Yes, sir. Moving to the next day on December 20 of 2018, what time did he clock in that morning?
8:02 a.m.
And what time did he clock out on December 20th, 2018?
2:48 p.m.
Do you note on either day whether there was a time period where he clocked out to either run an errand or go to lunch or do anything on his own personal time?
Do I see it on here?
Do you see any lunch clock out on either date, December 19 or December 20?
No, sir.
And one more time, Your Honor, request to publish to the back row. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Ms. Massell, just so you know, I'll probably give the jury a break in between after the direct before your cross. Just want to give you a heads up.
Mr. Lindrose, if there's no clock out lunch hour on December 19 or December 20 of 2018, and we see on the video that he departs the premises, is that against your policy not to clock out?
Yes, sir.
We'll look at video through your brother later, but in terms of this timesheet, is there anything you can point us to that shows that he left the premises on December 19 or December 20?
No, sir.
Now, did there come a day, sir, in early to mid-January 2019 that the police arrived at your business?
Yes, sir.
And did they arrive to conduct searches of various areas of your business?
Yes, sir.
Cooperate and assist the police in that?
Yes.
All right. Did they bring a canine and or a police dog trained for scent to your premises?
Yes.
Did they do that on more than one occasion, if you can recall?
They did.
Did you show them around?
Yes.
Now, the areas that they were searching do you recall whether they were generally areas that were closed to the public, if you can recall?
On one occasion when they came was when I was showing them around. On that occasion, yes, area closed to the public.
Do you recall them searching in an area that was in the far back right corner of your property?
Yes, sir.
Can you give us an estimate of the entire size of Ace Pickup Art?
30 acres.
Can you give us, in your best estimate, approximately how many of those acres are restricted to employees only?
Approximately 10 acres.
So it's a pretty big area. You agree with that?
Yes, sir.
Are there cameras that monitor areas within your premises?
Yes, sir.
And who's in charge of that within your company?
My brother set the system up. Yes, sir.
He's coming right behind you, so we'll ask him generally about that. But in terms of the cameras, do you gentlemen utilize the cameras for what purpose? Is it for employees or is it for theft prevention? Explain to our jury why you'll have the cameras.
Primarily theft.
Okay. And is that theft, generally speaking, from customers and or employees, or just customers? Or
It could be for anybody, but primarily customers. Could be for anybody.
Right. Now, specifically directing your attention, this will be the last sort of area, so just see if I can direct your attention directly to December 19, 2018, following through to the next day, December 20, 2018. At that time, is there anything that was unusual regarding those particular days of business?
No, sir.
Were you still on those 2 days standing in the shoes of Larry Carlson, who was the outside supervisor at that time?
Yes, sir.
So your duties were doubled up during those 2 days?
Correct.
Can you give us an estimate about how much time you personally were spending inside the office versus out in the yard on any given day?
Say I was 25% of the time outside of the office, checking on the employees, what they were up to, and 75% of the time in the office.
Okay. And is that a normal day when Mr. Carlson is present, or is that your day when he was out for those couple of months?
That's more than it would normally be.
Okay.
More time outside than it would normally be.
All right. So the 25% time period that you said you're outside, was that during the time period Mr. Carlson was out?
Yes, sir.
Does that mean 3/4 of your day around the time frame he was out, including December 19th and 20th, 3/4 of your day you were in the office?
Yes.
Do you agree, sir, that it is difficult to keep an eye on every single employee, especially the 16 or more outside employees, when you're doubled up in your duties?
Yes.
Talk to me about the noise at your company. Explain that to our jury. What's it sound like if we were just standing on your premises?
Typical, I would say, commercial operation. You hear heavy machinery operating, crusher crushing, excavator, loud banging noises. That would be pretty loud. Yes.
All right. Ever hear any popping of tires, removing tires off cars, anything like that?
Yes, sir.
Now, just in terms of an employee, when they leave, let's assume for a moment an employee left and did not clock out. Would that be something either your cameras or your eyes would have to catch to hold that employee accountable?
Yes.
You believe that could happen without your eyes and or the cameras catching that?
Anything is possible. Yes, sir.
Sir. You do agree, however, that the cameras, whatever they capture, you agree with respect to what's on the camera.
Yes, sir.
And you've actually had a chance to just to lay a couple predicate questions for you while we're there. We're going to ask your brother extensively about it, but did you review the clips from December 19 and December 20, 2018?
Yes, sir.
Do they fairly and accurately depict the defendant's actions on each and every one of the clips that you saw prior to coming to court today?
Yes, sir, they do.
And for our record, were you shown State's Exhibit 31, which is a compilation of clips from both of those days?
Yes, sir.
And you've reviewed those, and it's your testimony that they fairly and accurately depict the defendant's movements on that day?
Yes.
Did you see him leave your premises that day, sir?
I did.
On December 19, 2018?
Yes, sir.
And we'll watch it later, but if he left the premises in the middle of the day on December 19, 2018 and didn't clock out, is that against your company policy?
Yes, sir.
Now, at the end of the day, when you close up for the day, who's the last person to leave?
It depends on the manager on duty. Would be typically me, my brother Gary. We have an office manager named Cheryl. Would be one of the three of us.
And are there efforts made either by traversing around the lot in a golf cart or otherwise, checking to make sure all employees and or customers are gone?
Yes, we have an office staff employee. Every day we'll drive the parking lot, make sure all the cars are gone on a golf cart, and then drive the entire 30-acre facility and make sure that all the customers are gone also.
And would you have one of your outside employees, one of those 16 plus, do this end of the day sweep?
Typically, it's an office person. On occasion, it could be an outside employee.
All right. And is the office sweep where do you go over the entire premises?
The customer retail shopping area.
Okay. So let me ask it another way. Are the restricted areas that are only for the employees, is that part of a nightly sweep by management?
No.
And then lastly, sir, regarding a dumpster on your lot, is there one larger commercial trash dumpster on Ace Pick Apart in December of 2018?
Yes, sir.
Who was the contract through that put the dumpster there on your property?
All American, I believe, at the time.
All right, Mr. Billy Brown, I think, testified earlier, so you don't need to go into anything with respect to that account. But when that large receptacle was placed on your premises, how often would it fill up to where it needed to be emptied, sir?
Approximately once a week.
Right. And who made the phone call? Was it like a regular pickup, or did somebody have to call to get it picked up?
It was not a regular pickup either. I would observe with my own eyes, hey, that's full. I would immediately call All American. It's full, come and get it. Sometimes an employee in the production area would, hey, John, it's full, order one, and then I would call and order a pickup.
Once you called with that particular employee from All American, would they come pick up the receptacle and empty it within a day or so of you calling?
Yes, same day or next day, typically.
If you were, for example, if you were advised it's full on December 19th, is it your testimony that by December 20th, that receptacle would have been hauled off?
Yes, sir.
You recall, I know it's been many years, but can you recall whether you called on December 19th?
I have no recollection. Well, I'm sure I'm the one that called.
Right.
Whether or not I saw it or someone told me to call, I have no recollection.
Sure. And Mr. Brown testified to that. But just in terms of you sitting here, it's emptied once a week and you call to have it removed.
Yes, sir.
If you got to that once a week time period, what day generally would it be? It was like middle of the week, or can you recall?
I don't recall. Could
So,
be any day.
is it safe to assume this? When it's full, doesn't necessarily mean 7 days. Is that correct?
Doesn't necessarily mean 7 days. Depends on the inflow of cars, how much garbage. If we buy a lot of vans that are full of garbage or cars that have there's not a typical. I can't say. I call it every Thursday typically.
All right.
That would be hard to say.
How big is this particular dumpster?
It's a 40-yard dumpster. I would say it's the size of the jury box, as tall as the top of the paintings behind them.
The top of the paintings of the judges behind them.
Correct.
Okay. Upwards of, can you just give us an estimate in feet?
How tall is that approximately? 7 feet.
Okay. Was the defendant himself capable of operating equipment on your premises?
Yes, sir.
You ever see him emptying items into, for example, that particular receptacle?
Yes, sir.
Would that be unusual?
No, sir.
Would that be something he would do commonly?
Yes.
Would it also be something that would be commonly expected of the defendant to come advise you that receptacle is full?
Yes.
One moment, Your Honor. Very briefly, Your Honor, just a couple follow-up, Mr. Lindros, before I sit down. What was the common operating hours of Ace Pick Apart in December of 2018?
During our winter hours, for the operating hours are 8 to 5.
All right. And having reviewed some of the video clips that the jury will see, I think, with the next witness, did you observe the defendant on either December 19 or December 20 carrying duct tape?
Yes, sir.
Would you tell our jury what specific reason, if any, the defendant would be carrying duct tape in the yard?
There's no typical duty. I don't want to say there's never any occasion, but there's no typical duty that would require it.
All right. And then on that map, sir, I just want to make sure to point out for our jury, when you turn in to your business off of what the map shows as Main Street, when you turn in up there, would you have to park in the employee area, or can you go other areas in your property in a vehicle?
You should be parking in the employee parking lot, which is the same as the customer parking area. Can you go elsewhere? At that time, I would say possibly.
Okay.
I don't.
In a vehicle.
He sure did, Christian.
Typically, no. I don't recall at that time what was going on with the new property that we recently purchased, the cement area.
All right. If you turn in off of Main Street, can you drive into this area, what you call the old cement factory?
At the time, I would say no.
Okay. When you turn in and come down to the employee parking, can you turn in and come into the interior portion?
Okay, can I take a step back? At the time, I would say no, there were no typical operations going on in that cement factory. Could there have been access for reasons at that time? Perhaps. So I don't want to comment either way.
Okay. Tough to remember.
Tough to remember.
Okay. And then lastly, with regard to the clips, I want to ask you about, with respect to clothing. Did you see either on December 19, December 20, 2018, the defendant walking out of the office with an additional item of clothing in his arms? And if so, what is that?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Yes. On either December 19, December 20th, when you reviewed the video clips, did you see the defendant walking out of the office with an additional item of clothing under his arms?
Additional item of clothing under his arms?
Or holding in his hands?
Not that I recall.
Okay. We'll let Mr.
Didn't study that closely.
All right. Let me ask it this way. When you get issued like a rain suit or a shirt,
right,
or something like that, where would you go in the premises to retrieve that from the company?
If someone's wearing, I did see him wearing a rain suit on the 20th in the video. which is different than anybody else. I can't say for sure that we don't have that on premises to give people, but it would typically be their own.
Okay. So if he's walking out of the office holding an article of clothing, to your knowledge, it's nothing that would have been issued through your office.
If he walked in and said, "It's raining, do you guys have a spare raincoat in the thing?" Maybe we would have said, "Yeah, here you go." But it wasn't something that we typically issued to all employees.
All right. Now, with respect to that last comment you made, just a quick follow-up. On December 20th, you've reviewed all those video clips?
Yes.
And you said he was the only employee that day wearing an all yellow rain suit?
As far as I can tell, yes.
One moment, Your Honor.
That's where he's supposed to be at
We're going to
anyway.
take our mid-morning break at this point. It's 10:51. We'll come back out at 11:15, and we'll go from there. Please remember, don't discuss the case among yourselves or each other. Have a nice lunch break. Or, excuse me, have a nice break, not lunch break yet.
Now, y'all, I'm going to talk about this. Now, I've been in a strap yard like that. Like I said, I could understand what he was saying about going into the strap yard. We used to go in a little white truck. I used to have a pickup, and they'll tell us we'll have to get him your driving license, and they'll weigh your trash. They'll weigh your trash that you got on your truck. But then they'll send you to a specific area.
Exit the courtroom, and we'll call you back out around 11:15 and have you take the stand just as you are now to begin the cross by defense attorneys.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
You guys may have a seat, of course.
Yeah, the girl trusts him. See,
the jury's outside our presence, as is Mr. Lindros. We'll take a break here in a moment. One thing I wanted to add to circle back to our conversation earlier regarding the transcript. So standard instruction 2.6, use of transcripts of recordings. I'm reading verbatim. This instruction is not intended to apply to recording of a conversation in any language other than English. That's not, to my knowledge, not implicated in this case. It also says, in case of disputed transcripts, see Martinez v. State, 761 Southern 2nd, 1074. It's a Florida Supreme Court case from 2000. I'll also cite to McCoy v. State, 853 Southern 2nd, 396. It's a Supreme Court case from 2003. It talks about having a hearing outside the jury's presence, of course. You would think pre-trial to resolve any disputes as to the transcript. It does also talk about how the preferred method is to the parties stipulate to the accuracy of the transcript. However, if that cannot be accomplished, I think we're looking at a long afternoon to accomplish this work prior to tomorrow, outside the jury's presence, of course. How that fits our timeline, I don't know. I'm mentioning it now at our first break, just to kind of give you a heads up. We can discuss it later as to how you guys think we should best resolve it. I think you guys should talk about any inaccuracies you guys believe, see if the state agrees to those, and see how that changes. But I think it would require a hearing if there are disputes and potentially evidentiary based on some of the case law I read, for the state to lay any kind of foundation to their to build up the accuracy of it, whether it be through participants of that audio recording. So I'm mentioning it now just to kind of give you a heads up, because I think it may change course of what we do this afternoon. I don't want to keep you guys late, of course, but if I have to let the jury go early so we can accomplish
Bella.
Tomorrow.
They got a disagreement with that wiring.
So.
Yes, sir. May I put one other case on the record for the court?
Of course.
Davis v. State, 121 Southern 3rd, 462. Again, that's Davis, 121 Southern 3rd, 462, Florida Supreme Court case 2013. And it basically stands for the proposition that if the trial court cannot determine what is being said in parts of the transcript, but the transcript is otherwise audible, the court should use a jury instruction that tells the jurors to rely upon what they hear in the recording and not rely upon the transcript, which of course, Your Honor, adheres to what the standard instruction says regarding that anyhow, but I just want to point out there's a case that says when there are parts that are in dispute, the court can give sort of a further cautionary instruction. Again, that's Davis, State 121 Southern 3rd, 462, Florida Supreme Court case 2013.
Yeah, I came across that case as well, but that's only after only after a hearing, though, isn't it?
I haven't read the body, Judge. We just came across it, but yes, I mean, we're getting into it, but yes, and I understand the court on the timeliness issue. Yeah,
Well, the timeliness is one thing, but I'm saying that proposition you cited it for does not obviate the need for a hearing if there are disputes.
State agrees.
Okay. So we will address it maybe after the lunch hour once you guys have a chance to talk about it. I probably will give the jury a longer lunch given it's Monday, more jurors are in the courthouse. I just want to
transform your processes into profits. Like a
Yeah, they talking about that tape, that wire not gonna. They acting like it's not the same. What you said? I'm sneaking. What? It work. So okay. But yeah, go back to what you were saying, Belly. That's what they trying before. What they trying to get an understanding is before they present that wiring, like you said, that it's different than the way it was. What I played yesterday, they trying to present it differently. Somebody trying to change that wiring to protect him. That's what the defense trying to do. But the prosecutor trying to let them know that hey, now we want to leave it like it was, like it is. Yeah. Yeah, so it's a change in that transcript. See, somebody see the defense is trying to protect him. They trying to protect him because he's trying to change it. They trying to change what he said, what we listened to yesterday. And they trying to tell him, no, we're not going to change it. We're going to leave it like it was. We're going to leave it like it is. Wow, Lee, I can't believe somebody trying to, so in other words, somebody, but one of them witnesses was going to show up. If between the inmate or either his brother, one of them witnesses probably going to show up, see? And they trying to correct that before he get there. I see what they doing. But the strap yard, I've been in a strap yard before, and they have the iron and stuff stacked so neat. And when we pulled up our truck. When you first come in, you'll pull up on that scale, and the scale tell you how much you're gonna get paid. So on your way, you cross once he get the weight, then he'll tell you to go head on, and you'll go straight, and you'll see them little Chinese men standing over there. They look like foreigner people, and they'll tell you where to park to dump your own trash out the truck. And on your way out, you get a ticket. Now they also y'all smash that trash. It's an area where they smash that trash, and I seen them smashing it. But my thing with the ace at that place right there. Oh yeah, y'all. After you when you go out and you get a paper slip, you take the slip over there to another building, and then they'll give you your money that way. But I was trying to oh, you did? It haven't came on, Mary. It hasn't came on yet. But what I was saying about the strap yard is the same place. Is so when this happened in 2018, they still had that trash pack like that. That's what I'm trying to see. To see it's just surprised me that his stack is still over there. Yeah, it kind of confuses because the trash that he had her in, I don't understand how they caught it. They caught it though. They caught it. It's a lot of iron out there, y'all. It's not like a dumpster where you dump trash. That's what I don't understand. But what they showed us, the video we had, did he work at the yeah, he worked at the U-Pool place at the scrapyard. No, he oh, it sounds like he yeah, he worked there, Lester. He worked there. Yeah, he worked there. My thing is, it's no bone, it's no skull, it's no nothing. So is he really telling the truth that this girl is deceased, unalive? If you go back and listen to when the lady was talking about the gun with the oil, she don't even act like the gun been shot. She don't act like they shot the gun. Which you put apart. It's the same. It's a you pull apart. It's the place where they do the he worked in the area where you put the dump. He controlled the dumpster area when they get ready to dump the body out there. When they get ready to dump the trash, he could tell you, "Hey, park over here." And I don't know. This is crazy. It's kind of yeah. But he work out there in the same area where that's his supervisor. That guy who just got down, he run the scrap yard. And what's the name? Say he the one deal with the dumpster. He 3,000 cars, picking them apart and also crushed cars. So, but that guy right there just said that he is supervisor. I believe what he did. I believe what he did was put that body in a instead of putting it in the trash, he put her body in a cart and smashed it. Crash cards. You know where y'all like when you got them old cars and you'll tell them to come pick it up and they'll give you $300 and stuff like that. They smash those cars, but they supposed to check those cars before they smash those cars. See, I don't understand that. Yeah, Lester, there you go. When they smashing and stuff like that, they'll take it down. You still make money. See, it's about and then too, it's about money too, the way they doing it. The car go to the strap yard. Yeah. See, he could have, but what he said, what I say, he said that dumpster, he dumped, he know where her body was. See, y'all, what's gonna happen? What's going on now? One of them dudes about to come take that stand later on today. I hope they do this before I go to work because I can't even see it that way. One of them dudes gonna take that stand. I don't know if he the wiring guy. Is this the brother? Is it the guy who locked up? One of them guys gonna take that stand. That's why they're trying to correct it now. He probably smashed her in the car himself, so nobody else would know. I want to know how did he do that too, Big Dog. I want to know because he said that he dumped her body. I don't believe her body in the same scrap yard. They got different scrap yard, y'all. All depends on what scrap yard he sent her to. That's another thing. And this business also had dumped in a big container what went once we to Oldest landfill. Yeah, and then Oldest landfill went out there and went through the trash. And the only thing they found out there at Oldest landfill was her book bag and those Victoria's Secrets underwear, but they didn't find no bones, no nothing. What did he do with that body? What did he do to that body? Yeah, see, yeah, they got multiple landfill. They got multiple places you could do that, but on did something different to that body. We got to figure out what he did with that body. I don't believe that body out there at that scrap yard. I believe he sent it to a different scrap yard. Something ain't right about this. Because they would have found a skull, they would have found a bone, they would have found something, a femur, they would have found something. They ain't find. Only thing they found was her undergarment, her school book bag, and nothing at all. And y'all know when they go out there to them landfill, they gonna find something. So what did he do with that body? I bet he smashed the car with her in it, or either he got her hidden somewhere. We got to get into his mind. We got to get into his mind of what could he have done? Even if they don't have a body, he won't get the death penalty to me, but he will get life without parole, eligible for parole. Let me see. I was thinking that too. Big Dog, I was thinking about that too. Did he burn her body? But where are the bones? Where the bones at? Where is something? You're gonna have something. Like you say, he smashed her in the car. The car got hauled away. And that's what they did, send that car to the scrap yard. See, he think he's slick. See, I'm gonna tell you what he did. And it is something else, it's something else going on with her credit card. It's something about her credit card. When she went to his office, because she can walk to his office, to his place, he claimed that he put her he crashed her body in a car, and Victoria's Secret plus the book bag from her school found Oldest landfill. Yeah, they found that. I just said that. But her body in a car crash, allegedly. I think her body is in a car smash. And when they smashed it, that's money. See, that boy had a time. That boy knew what cars they were going to come. But see, they supposed to check those cars before, but maybe they don't. He's supposed to check those cars. See, he did his own work, allegedly. Now, when I was at work, I said, I hope he not tricking us. I can be wrong. I was trying to look at it a different way. I tried to look at stuff criminal minded, different ways. I said, well, maybe he got her somewhere put up. in Mexico or somewhere. Now I'm just thinking out the out the thing. Where is she? Because I just don't think he the type of a guy, and I can be wrong, to kill a baby like that. The baby 5 months. And like the guy said in jail, why would you kill her and she kept you a secret? See, I think he got some issues, y'all. I think he got some issues going on. Well, we know he do because he done this before, but not as bad. See, he was doing the same thing Henry was doing. You know, Henry started out with pre-causes of doing it when he was younger. And then when they get older, they start doing stuff differently. It got serious to them. And that's what happened to him. So he had to allegedly unalive her. Yeah, he had to allegedly unalive her. But he had to smash her. I think he smashed her inside a car. I really do. And what threw me out is the gun. The oily gun. The oil. They act like that gun was never shot. What was the purpose of the gun having all that oil in it? I thought maybe some of that oil got in it out there. I don't know. What about the clothes now? See, I don't know about the clothes. See, we ain't gonna know nothing about no clothes if she smashed. It's just like when we looking at when you're looking at the movies, he cleaned it. He sure did. And he watched them smash. Then too, y'all, he could have put her in an area where it was time to smash the cars. It's time to smash the trash. Because he know the area. See, I did scrap, y'all. You got trash. Oh, it's time to get this smashed. They put it on the train. Because they got a train. They have to put this, once they smash it neat. I sat there and watched them do it. They'll smash it so neat, y'all, and magnify and go put it over there on that train. It's amazing what they do out there. That scrapyard. I sat there and I watched them, and I said, "Boy, this is so interesting." And they do it right there while you dumping your person dumping their trash. Them folk be working out there, boy, and they be hot. Now, that's the only way I can see her body is being in a car smash. I don't understand why he went that far. But see, you won't know. See, if he smashed the car, she can still have on her clothes. Now she can have her clothes on. Because once they smash it, it's like a trash. They sit up there and make that thing look so neat. They make that trash look so neat. See, he did some, and then at first I felt that she wasn't dead. I thought she was not, I don't want to say unalive. I thought she was alive. Because he's very manipulative too, because he doing too much. He doing too much. He did a lot because he had that sister, her sister need to talk. Prosecutor said they have a witness. Her sister need to take the stand because she old enough to take the stand. She need to be another DL for her sister. Because if she open up her mouth out there on that stand, we got a big old help right there. She got to talk because her sister is the only one know everything. And this can put him up under the bus. She got to testify for her sister in order to protect her sister. because she said she wanted she didn't tell on her sister because she wanted to protect her sister. She knew her sister was going over there to that point. When she sat down at the cafeteria, she was doing her hand like this. She did not want her sister to go over there with him. She did not want her sister to leave with him. He had her thinking that she was going to leave because she packed her clothes up in that book bag. But the sister needed to take the stand. If she really wanted to protect her sister, she needed to do like DL. You got to speak up.
All right, let's go back on the record. I do have counsel of state defense, Mr. Quiles present. Before we continue and bring the jury back in, has there been any further discussion regarding parties agreeing to waive sequestration during deliberations? I ask because at some point I need to give the clerk's office enough notice to where they can make arrangements if it's not being waived.
Actually, Judge, when we get to the record,
No, I'm talking about the girl sister. All the people I seen took the stand was the mama and the auntie. I ain't seen no sister.
Sounds great.
I don't have nothing with the sister on there.
Is it safe to say that the state's agreeing to waive it if the defense waives it? Or that hasn't occurred yet?
We've just been waiting to hear back from the defense. I know that they were going over with their client.
Okay.
So that's what we were just waiting on first.
Yeah, but the afternoon sounds fine. Sure. I asked not because I'm concerned about it, just because I want to give the clerk's office a heads up.
Belly, I haven't seen the
That may be
sister
one less
yet.
issue that the jury has to worry about.
I ain't talking about the auntie.
So, with that said, say anything before we bring the jury back in?
Sorry.
Anything from the defense?
Ooh,
Okay.
somebody,
Let's bring the jury back in, please.
somebody phone went off. I haven't seen her sister yet. I'm talking about SS. Only sisters I seen was the mama and the auntie.
Oh yeah, whatever you want to do is fine.
Margie and Kimberly. Them the only two I seen. And the grandma. I ain't seen SS on the stand yet. I have not seen her. I ain't seen nothing with her. I'm gonna go back and see, can I show it today? Oh, if she was 14, they probably didn't show her.
Members of the jury, welcome back. You guys may have a seat, of course. We're going to continue with the test. Sir, you may have a seat as well, of course. We're going to continue with Mr. Lindrich's testimony. If you recall, we left off after the state's direct. We're now turned to the defense for any cross. Ms. Michelle, you may inquire. You're ready.
Thank you, Judge. Still afternoon? Yeah, or good morning still.
Good morning.
All right, let me start by talking just a little bit about Mr. Quiles as an employee. He was hired in October of 2018, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So that would have been about 2 months that he was working for you prior to this incident that occurred.
Yes, ma'am.
As far as the type of employee that he was, you stated on direct that he was generally a good employee, on time.
Yes, ma'am. No complaints. A good employee.
You were satisfied with his work. He was a hard worker.
Yes, ma'am.
And you described his role as he would fill in with people, and when he was filling in, he would be partnered up the way you described. your teams of people in the production area.
Correct.
Okay, and so he would work with several different people on the production team.
When he was in that role, correct.
And from time to time, he would fill that role during that 2-month period prior to this incident occurring.
Yes, ma'am.
You also described him as kind of a all-around type of handyman. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so he would fix things if they were broken and that type of thing.
Yes.
And so as far as I know you were shown a map that you generated and kind of made markings on, correct?
Yes.
That map that was talking about specifically about things that were broken or repairs that needed to be made in the exterior fence around your property.
Yes.
And so that type of information would be normal to come from him because that was what he was doing, repairing things.
The answer to that would be, it would unsolicited. I found it odd that he produced a kind of security check of the fence. It would be normal for him to do it if we asked him to do. It would not be unusual for us to ask something like that of him or anybody else. You know, can you go see where there might be some holes under the fence, something like that. In that particular occasion, it was unsolicited. I thought that was odd.
Okay, and when you say unsolicited, it was unsolicited from you.
Correct.
Okay, you're not sure if someone else asked him about that area and then he was providing that information to you.
The only two people that would ask would be me or my brother Gary, and I know that neither one of us did. He'll be here later. You can ask him. And the only other person would be Larry, the yard manager, who was out on surgery leave for a couple of months at that time.
Understood. And you talked about some thefts that you all had and that was kind of a common thing, that there would be thefts at the property, correct?
It depends what your definition of common is, but yes, there are on occasion thefts, correct.
Do you recall around this time period when that map was provided to you that there had been an incident of a theft from a hole in the fence?
It's possible we could have found some parts on the other side of the fence that were shoved underneath the fence, something like that. I don't recall. I apologize.
Okay. And if that scenario, that there was a theft and there was a hole in the fence, that parts were placed on the other side, that would be something that you would ask Mr. Quiles back then to fix or to repair?
Yes, if we found parts on the other side of the fence, there was a hole under the fence, we might have said, can you go see where there might be some holes that we can fill in dirt or something underneath? I would ask him that if that happened.
Okay. And you can't recall specifically doing that as you sit here today, but it's not that would not be out of the ordinary if that were to be the case.
It would not be out of the ordinary at all if that was the case, but I specifically remember being surprised when he handed me the map because I did not ask him to do it.
And you don't know that your brother or someone else did not ask him or point something out?
I do know that my brother did not, and there's nobody else that would.
Okay. As far as actually making repairs and things like that around the property, he wouldn't just repair fences or things like that. If there was a piece of machinery or something like that that might be broken, that might be something you would ask him to repair as well, correct?
If he saw a piece of machinery that needed to be serviced, he might just go ahead and service it without being asked.
Okay. And so doing things like that, that was kind of the type of employee that he was. If he saw something that needed to be fixed, he would jump to and do it.
He has, yes.
Okay. As far as some of the machinery that you had, do you recall there being a tire machine near that entrance area to your property?
Yes, so at that time we had a tire station there where we were removing tires from rims. Yeah.
Okay, and would that have been when you were shown, and I might come around and actually show this.
And when you say near the entrance of the property, I have to see what you're talking about to make sure we're talking about the same place.
That's exactly why I'm coming over, just so that I can show you,
Okay.
and that way we can make sure it's clear. And maybe if you could step down again, that seemed to work
Yes, ma'am.
a lot better earlier, so that the jury can see exactly what we're pointing to. And thank you, I was going to come. All right, so if you could please, can you all see? If you could point to where that tire machine area would be on this map.
That tire machine operation was going on in this general vicinity at that time.
Okay. And were there any tire machinery or anything like that in the area where you had just purchased? Did you guys have anything around
there back at that time?
Not to my recollection.
Did you guys have any machinery or any other items in that area where you had just acquired that property?
Could we have been parking equipment there, that kind of thing? It's possible. Nothing that was part of our regular production cycle.
Thank you so much.
May I have a seat?
Sir?
The witness have a seat?
Oh, yes, of course.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Thank you.
He was lingering and.
I turned my back. I thought you were going back as well, so that's my fault. So sorry. Now that you're seated again.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. So that tire machinery, do you recall a time period where that machine broke down?
Not that I recall, but the tire machine does break down occasionally.
Okay. For example, if that tire machine was broken around this time period and it needed a part, would you ask Mr. Quiles to go and get that part for you?
If there was nobody else to get the part, then we would possibly do it. Typically, the person that would go with a credit card for that, for example, to go get a part would be me, my brother, or Larry, the yard manager. Larry, the yard manager, was out. That on the 19th, my brother and I were both in the office. So to ask someone else to go to buy a part would be unusual.
Okay. But you don't have any independent recollection as you sit here today, whether you did or you didn't.
I can't say for sure 100% that I did or I didn't.
But it does sound like something you might ask Mr. Quiles to do. Hey, can you go buy a part? We need XYZ fixed, and you're the guy that's fixing it.
In a bind, yes.
Okay. And for example, if he needed to go buy a part, you asked him to go do so, would he clock out to go and do that, or would that be on company time?
If he was going to run an errand for the company, he would not clock out.
And so on the 19th, if you did in fact ask him to go on an errand and he didn't clock out, there would be nothing abnormal about that, nor would that be against any policy that you have.
Correct.
Which one?
Now I want to turn your attention to those specific days, and I know you said you reviewed video, so I'll get into that. But on those days, looking back, do you recall anything out of the ordinary happening that day?
I do not.
Do you recall interacting with Mr. Quiles in those days?
I don't recall interacting with anybody on that day. It was over 4 years ago.
Would you have interacted with him? I know you can't recall that, right?
I definitely would have.
Okay. And from what you can remember, did he seem to be out of the ordinary in any way?
Nothing that I remember.
As far as what he was doing those days, working, did he perform his duties as normal during those days?
I don't recall anything that stood out one way or another.
So you don't remember him being absent doing something off without supervision for any extended period of time during those days?
Correct.
All right, and I wanted to ask you a little bit about this duct tape. So you said in reviewing the video, you can see that he has duct tape in his hand at some point.
Correct.
And you said there's typically no function that you could think of, but there are some things he could be using duct tape for that would be work related, correct?
Correct.
And so although you can't think of anything specifically that he may have been doing, it's completely plausible that he had duct tape for work purposes.
Yes.
You never see him doing anything with that duct tape. You just see it in his hand.
In the video, correct.
And you don't know where he retrieved that from, or whether it was within the office or somewhere else on the grounds of your property.
I don't yes, I don't know. The video may show him walking in the office without it and walking out of the office with it. That's possible. I don't recall.
Okay. And so if he got that from the office, it very well could have been something work related, correct?
It's possible.
And you talked about the procedures as far as checking the lot at the end of the day. You said that you guys do run through you go on a golf cart and kind of run the aisles where the customers are shopping.
Correct.
And that's where that 2,500 to 3,000 number of cars are located on your property.
Yes.
Is it also, although you may not check every part of the restricted area, are there any times where you do also use the golf cart to kind of run through the restricted areas of your property?
We can see most of the restricted area from the office. So yes, I mean, employees are the ones doing the check. Employees would be the ones that would be working in those restricted areas. We would not have a lot of reason to check the employee area. Employees want to go home at the end of the day. So, hey, go home. You know, that would be odd.
Fair enough. So to you, it would be very strange if someone stayed
Yeah.
overnight at their job.
Yes.
As far as the possibility of there being someone who's stayed in a restricted area of your facility, you would say from the office you'd pretty much be able to see every area.
Not 100% coverage of every area, but for the most part, we can see. Yes.
And that would be the reason why you wouldn't necessarily take a golf cart like you would through the customer areas.
We want to make sure all the customers are gone before we lock them in, before we leave at the end of the night.
Understood. And as far as the likelihood of there being a person hiding on the property overnight, can you give me what you would say with the likelihood of that being?
Low. Anything's possible, but low.
So it'd be very unlikely that that could happen.
I don't have a recollection of it ever happening, but I suppose anything's possible.
In your review
Oh,
of,
sure was. It
let me
sure
ask you a little
was,
bit about the
Tawana.
garbage. The garbage that you guys collect on the property, that comes from where exactly?
Comes from the 40 to 50 cars that we buy every day.
Okay. And when you receive those vehicles, you empty all the contents within inside of that vehicle.
Relatively, the garbage should come out of the vehicles. Yes.
And the type of vehicles that you receive vary from fatal car crash vehicles to vehicles people are getting rid of. It could really be any type of vehicle that you would receive, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You could even get vehicles that people have been living in.
Yes, ma'am.
And so if someone had been living in it and they had a ton of clothing and items from their home that you would typically find in a home, that would be something you all would take out and dump in the garbage, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you do that for every vehicle that comes into your property.
Correct.
You also describe the process of what you all do as far as removing the liquids and the tires and all of that. So you basically strip the vehicle down.
Strip the vehicle down. We don't take parts off the car. The car gets put into the yard, but we take fluids and garbage out of the vehicle and the battery. Everything else is left.
Understood. And that garbage that you guys accumulate, does all of that eventually make its way into that 40-yard dumpster?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you have smaller dumpsters throughout the property, correct?
Well, not throughout the property. In the area where the cars get dropped off by the tow trucks, there is a team of typically 2 guys that are taking the garbage out of the cars and throwing that garbage into a dumpster. So that's really one dumpster, one smaller dumpster.
So there's one smaller dumpster that then gets put into a larger.
Yes, it's open-ended and easier for people to take the garbage out of the cars and shovel it directly into that dumpster.
And there are, like you said, there's a team of 2 people who are doing that throughout the day.
Yes.
As far as the proximity of these things to each other, I know you said the property is quite large. When your employees are working in these teams, are they covering a good amount of that area?
Well, the 30 acres, I think we said that 20 of it is customer shopping area. Most of the production is going on in the 10 acres. So I would say most of the employees are working in that 10-acre area.
And would that be something where essentially if you're working in this area, you could see other teams of people working in other areas of the property?
Yes.
All right. And you said that you were there when the property was searched with canines, correct?
It happened on more than one occasion. On one occasion, I was there, yes.
You don't recall the exact date of that, do you?
I do not.
Okay. And it was after, you believe it was January, is that approximately correct?
Yes.
And when that search happened, no apparent murder scene was located, correct?
Correct.
And no area with evidence of blood was located, correct?
I think the K9 did detect blood. I don't know what the determination of that was or wasn't.
As far as bullet fragments, nothing like that was located.
I wasn't privy to what was located and what wasn't located. The only thing I was privy to was whatever anyone else would have read in the newspaper.
Understood. And that's why I'm asking what your personal knowledge is, not something you may have learned from the news.
Yeah, my personal knowledge is I can't speak to that one way or another.
And you said you reviewed those cameras from the 19th and 20th. You never saw Mr. Quiles dumping a body of any sorts, did you?
I didn't review 100% of the footage, so in the footage that I saw, I did not.
You never saw, in your review of whatever footage you've seen, you never saw a young woman with Mr. Quiles, did you?
The footage that I saw, I did not see that.
You never saw him placing anybody in a vehicle in that restricted area of your property, did you?
Joanna, I was trying to tell them, everybody
As far
get
as that 40-yard dumpster goes, you're the one who actually calls and gets that American garbage truck to come and pick that dumpster up, correct?
Typically, is my observation, hey, it's full, and I make a phone call. An employee will call me, hey, it's full, call for pickup. With that said, the number is on the side of the dumpster.
Keep calling Margie, her auntie, her sister.
Could another employee call?
I don't know why
perhaps,
they keep
but
saying that.
it's rare.
I know I'm looking at this scene now.
It's not something that would be typical of
Margie is her auntie.
And you on that
Margie is not her sister.
You were the one who actually called.
Because I see right here, you got sister Ayana.
I don't remember for certain. Typically, it should have been me. I would imagine that it was me.
That wouldn't be something you would have a 2-month.
I haven't seen.
I wouldn't have a 4-year employee.
I haven't seen
make that phone call. Typically, it would be me.
Okay, so Mr. Quiles has no control whatsoever over when that 40-yard dumpster.
I seen Margie and I seen Kimberly.
Other than
they are calling Margie her sister. Margie
like I said,
is
sometimes
not,
it's my observation is full. I better call. Sometimes it's an employee that would say,
her auntie.
If John is full, you might want to call for
I don't know why these people on here. I'm looking at the news.
They wouldn't call,
and they keep calling Margie her sister.
Wasn't full,
but that's
correct?
her aunt.
They should not.
When an employee comes and says, "Hey,"
that's right. That was Margie and Kimberly Mobley.
You would verify that typically, wouldn't you?
No, I might not.
I haven't seen.
Sometimes they'll call me when I'm off or on vacation. Hey, call for a swap out, and I'll say okay, and I'll call for a swap.
But I'm looking at the news now. It got the sister or Ayana.
I can typically see it over the top of the dumpster.
They stand what her sister said, but they haven't shown her.
On vacation or anything like that.
On the 19th, I know that I was there. Do I recall if I did a visual check before I called? I don't remember.
You would agree that you could pretty much see it from the property, correct?
Yes.
And if you were there, you would physically be able to see that it was full.
I would be able to see, yes.
If you did see that, then you'd be the one who just go ahead and make the call.
Typically, yes. With that said, sometimes the dumpster will appear full, and the loader operator could pack down the contents.
That's right.
And get more in there. So it's not always, my observation's not always accurate.
All right. As far as where that area is, there's a car crusher.
But in the news, they keep calling the auntie Margie her sister.
Okay, and there would be a team of
it's not having taken its stand
right
yet.
there near that car crusher, right?
Her mother and her sister.
Correct. There would be a loader operator who should load the cars into the crusher.
And would that be the same type of production team that you described, at least 2 people?
I don't know. Why the media keep calling the auntie?
There would be a loader operator loading the crusher, and I would say a ground guy that would keep the ground clean and wrap the cars in netting after they're crushed. Yes.
And then if someone was also bringing debris or garbage from another dumpster or wherever into that dumpster, that would be another person who's in that area, correct?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Yeah, basically what I'm asking is the car crushing people aren't also then taking stuff into that dumpster. So if someone's bringing something to the dumpster, that would be a separate person from the car crushing team that you just talked about.
Typically, it could be the smaller dumpster that the car cleaners fill up. They could really wave down.
We know all about that, Billy.
Any loader operator.
We know
say,
about
hey, this is full.
her protecting her
They could
sister.
call over the
And she
guy
kept
loading
it
the crusher.
secret, but
They could call over
she
the
never
loader
have
operator
taken a
that's putting
stand.
cars on the rack to be drained,
They keep
or anyone
calling.
else running around on a loader.
They
Understood.
keep
So
calling
there are
Margie
employees
her
that are,
sister. I ain't seen that
there are
girl take a
employees that are
stand
in that
yet.
area moving about throughout the day, correct?
Correct.
It's not an area that's no man's land where no one's going on a regular basis.
You are correct.
So if Mr. Quiles, during that time period was working on one of those kind of like solo projects that you described, that sometimes
His sister ain't took no stand. I don't care what they say. That's
would
how
that be
I got
something where he would
confused
come
the
in and
first
check in
time.
with you on a regular basis?
They got sister Ayana.
He may or may not if he needed something. I
Jonathan.
suppose that I would go and check on him. Hey, how's it going? What are you up to? Do you need
And I
anything?
don't see him.
And by check-in, I also mean, would he also, if he, let's say he was repairing the tire machine and then completed that job, he would come to you and ask you for additional
Oh,
jobs.
I ain't seen her on day 2.
If there weren't already known additional things to do.
Understood.
I ain't
And during
seen
that
her.
time period, I know you said that you didn't notice anything out of the ordinary.
I got to
In your
find it.
review
I
of
ain't
the
found it
video,
yet, and I
was
went through
Mr.
this
Quiles
whole
coming to the office on a
minute.
regular basis throughout those 2 days?
I'll say he did come in and out of the office a few times. Definition of a regular basis without having watched 100% of the video, that would be hard for me to say.
Okay. And during those times when he would come to the office, is that to check in with you, or is that to grab items that he needed? What would he be coming to the office for typically?
I ain't seen her.
Maybe to get a pair of gloves, maybe to
I don't
get a
even know
key
how
for a
she
piece of
look.
equipment,
I ain't seen the girl yet.
that type of thing.
Would he also come to the office to check in with you?
Maybe, hey, I'm done with that, or I can't do this for that one reason or another. So he if there was a reason, yes.
Okay. And so outside of the time periods where you'd be out checking, there could also be times when employees might come in and actually have conversations with you and check in that way as well.
Yes.
Now, Billy, you're not talking about the girl in the wheelchair, are you? You're not talking about the lady in the wheelchair,
And I
are
know
you?
you said that there were probably about 16, 17 employees. Well, 16 if
seen
Mr.
no more
Carlson
black
wasn't
women.
there throughout that time period. Those employees freely move about the property, especially in that restricted area, all throughout the day, correct?
Well, they should be working in their station that they're assigned. Could they freely move around? Yes.
And let me ask you about that a little bit more. If they're assigned to the car crushing
I can't
area,
find
for
her.
example, are they in that area all day?
Could they be called away to do another task or go help somebody do something else? Just like any job, I suppose that's possible. But yeah, typically if they're crushing cars, we're crushing cars all day. They would be in that area all day.
Okay, so normally they would be in that area for the majority of the day.
Yes.
Not that there isn't a possibility that they could be called away,
Right.
but just on a normal day, they would be there and they'd be there most of the day.
Correct.
And that would be the same for each area that you kind of described as far as in the production.
Yes.
Do you also have garbage collection areas that's outside of your property, directly out front side of your property, maybe even where that parking lot is?
There are garbage cans in our retail public parking lot, just like there would be in any retail public parking lot.
And does that garbage then get moved or dumped into that 40-yard dumpster?
Not directly. Someone will go through that parking lot with a front end loader or a smaller open ended dumpster, where it's easier to dump those cans directly into the bucket of a front end loader and then go from there and dump it into the 40-yard dumpster.
And that front garbage that you're describing, that's open to the public, correct?
That's open to the public, correct?
That's not behind the gates where you lock and restrict that area.
We do lock our public parking area overnight, but during the day it's open to the public.
Understood. And let me ask you, do you recall Mr. Quiles referring a young lady by the name of Margie Mobley to you for a job?
Yes.
Okay. And did you in fact hire her after Mr. Quiles referred her to you?
I did.
Yeah, I'm
And she was
looking at her
working during
too.
that time period
I'm
at
looking at
basically
the woman
park
in the black
that we're
too.
talking about, right, in that December time period.
She was.
Yeah, I'm looking at her. Who is she? You
Did
talking
you
about the one, the
also
one
at
got the
some point
glasses on? I'm looking
employ
at her
Mr.
right now.
Quiles' son?
No.
Did he work in the parking lot at all while Mr. Quiles worked there? Do you recall that?
He was not employed by us. Jonathan asked me
Hold
at
up.
one point if he said his son got into some trouble in school. He wanted to teach him a lesson. I said he was too young for us to employ. He said, do you mind if I just have him pick up garbage around the parking lot, something like that? I said, if he's in the parking lot, I suppose he could do whatever he wants, but we're not employing him.
Understood.
That's the recollection of that conversation.
Right now.
So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Okay.
And
Let me
that
see
would have been
here.
during the same time period in December.
I don't recall the time period. Sounds about right, but I can't say for sure.
If he worked from October until December of
Oh,
it was in that time period.
I see her
He wouldn't have
barely. I
asked
didn't know
2
that was
weeks
her
into
sister. She
employment,
look
so it would have
older.
been, yeah.
So likely it was.
Somebody she wear glasses. That's what she talking about, Demon. She look
Just a
older.
moment.
Oh, I see her. Let me see. Can I see her sister. Oh, that's her. And she crying. How did I skip that?
A couple of follow-up and then we'll be done.
I gotta play
All right,
that.
and let me just clarify, make sure I have this clear. Where that 40-yard dumpster is, it's right in front of what you guys call the rack, right?
In front of is
Yeah,
a relative.
hold on for 1 second. Let me go to here right quick. Hold on for a second. I need to go right here for a second because I don't pulled up something I didn't see. Hold on. I'm gonna put it back. I'm about to pull it up. See, I didn't see this. Hold on, y'all. Day two. Day two. Ayana. Your sister. Stand. Okay, let me put y'all where I'm at. I just found that girl, y'all. I just found her, Belly. Wow. Hold on. I want to go to it. Hold on. I got to see this because I ain't seen this. Pregnant. Let me see. Is it this one? Okay. Let me see. It's day two. This day two.
Recordings just got better.
Nah, this ain't.
It's Dana from StreamYard. I'm so excited to announce that local recordings are now available on StreamYard. Have you
now on News for Jackson at 5. Oh, no.
To
Hold on, y'all. I'm looking at hold on, y'all. I'm looking at it on my phone. Day two. She on this one.
I just don't want to keep them.
Here she go.
The location of where you're about to do a search.
Yes.
Would that be the side, like if we're looking straight on the house, would that be the left side of the home?
Yes.
Now in state 17U, could you please describe?
That's the front door.
Next in state 17V,
That's when I stepped inside the residence and took a photograph.
would that be to the left or to the right, ma'am?
That was to the left.
Ultimately, did you take some photographs though of a certain location of interest?
Yes.
And was that the primary bedroom of that residence?
Yes.
And in state's evidence 17W, can you please describe?
That's a photograph of the master bedroom, the one main bedroom with the closet door.
And just going back a second, 17W, was then the closet a point of interest?
Yes.
Next in state 17X, are we able to see the item of interest for your search, Detective Hamilton?
That's a closer shot. If you can see in the corner.
Could you please
You may
stop,
not,
ma'am?
you may not be able to see this up here. It's just coming in.
And we're about to look at some closer pictures, aren't
Yes.
we?
Yes.
Ultimately, what are we looking at here in state 17X from a far viewpoint picture?
Yes. I'm just leading you up to the point to where we want to focus on.
And what is that item?
That's a firearm.
And next in state 17Y.
That's the photo of the firearm
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
in place.
Oh, sorry, ma'am. And then in state 17Z,
A closer shot.
and is that again common to give all the
There she go. There she go, y'all.
Vehicle, right?
Yes,
Ish.
right from here, yes.
Okay. Do you know if that was as a result of them taking the K9 cadaver dogs over there?
From the standing, I believe so.
Okay. And
Is that
that's why you were called out there. You did so, go through there. You just stated you tested those items, and those
No,
were
that
negative,
ain't her.
for
Yes. It's a 9mm.
This detective. This the girl I was talking about. Okay, let me see. This the lady me and you were talking about. That's a detective. Hold on. Let me go to the end. Hold on. Is this her right here? Here she go. Here she go. There she go.
My name is Samaya Sawyer.
And
There
what
she
is your
go.
date of birth?
September 25th, 2003.
And how old are you today?
I'm 19.
And where do you generally live?
I'm Jacksonville
And how long have you lived here in Jacksonville?
for 19 years.
Is that your whole life?
Yeah.
And what are you doing for a living?
I'm a student,
And what are you studying?
biomedical science.
And what do you want to do later?
I would like to be a physician.
And where did you graduate high school?
Terry Parker,
In what year?
2022.
That's her right here, Demond.
And who is your mother?
Kimberly Mobley.
And do you have siblings?
Yes.
You have a sister and two brothers?
Yes.
And is IS your older sister?
Yes.
Only though by a year, is that fair to say?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, actually, we ask you, and is your father Willie Sawyer?
Yes, ma'am.
And does your mother have a big extended family?
Yes.
And are you close to all of your aunts?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you also have some family members in Georgia?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that their legal names? I know you don't call them by their legal names, but are they Nancy and Clifford Ware?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, did your grandma Nancy Ware, did she provide you and IS cell phones?
Yes.
And did your grandma Nancy Ware also provide you an IS in a bank account?
Yes, ma'am.
And would she put, some small money in there for you to have for spending?
Yes, ma'am.
And in fact, does your grandma Nancy Ware do that to this day?
Yes.
And were there occasions where you would visit with your grandparents in Georgia?
Yes.
And would that be during the summer when you were not in school?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, back when IS and you, I would say around the 2017, 2018 timeframe, did the two of you tend to be at the same place?
Yes, ma'am.
How would you have considered your relationship with IS during those 2 years?
Very close.
In fact, even younger, were the two of you always close?
Yes, ma'am.
However, were you also typical close siblings?
Yes.
Meaning you would do normal bickering of sister stuff?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you and IS also tell each other a lot of information that I guess you could maybe call it a secret?
Yes, ma'am.
Things that necessarily you wouldn't want to tell your mom?
Yes.
Is that fair to say?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, in regards to different places that you and or IS would go, where were those locations? Again, I'm just trying to keep your focus to the 2017, 2018 timeframe.
Yes, ma'am. My mom's house, occasionally my father, with my grandma's during the summer, and my Aunt Naomi's house.
And your father, Mr. Sawyer, Willie Sawyer, does he live here in Duval County as well?
Yes, ma'am.
And back in that time frame of 2017 and 2018, were you living off of India Avenue?
Yes, ma'am.
And now you had mentioned Naomi. Is that one of your aunts?
Yes.
Is her last name Mobley, just for record purposes?
Yes, ma'am.
And back in 2017 through 2018, did she have a husband?
Yes, ma'am.
And who was that?
Johnathan Quiles.
And is that how you got to know that individual?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you, though, call that individual outside of courtroom purposes Uncle John?
Yes.
And if you were to see that person again, would you be able to identify that person by something that he's wearing and where located in the courtroom?
Yes, ma'am.
Just take a moment.
Look at him looking at him.
And did you see the person that you know to be as Johnathan Quiles?
Yes, ma'am.
Where is he located?
He's sitting to my right side of the room next to Michelle with glasses on and a ponytail.
And could you tell the color of the shirt, please?
It's white.
You're allowed the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant.
So reflected.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Your Honor. So, was there a reason why you particularly would go over to this aunt's home, the Naomi and the defendant's home?
Yes.
And why was that?
Mainly my sister would want to go, and I'll just go with her.
And did your Aunt Naomi and then at the time, the defendant, being your uncle, did they have children?
Yes.
How many at that time?
One.
And was that a little girl?
Yes.
And are her initials NQ?
Yes, ma'am.
And when I say little, because how old is she today?
She is 8.
So between 5 and 6 years ago, she would have been between the ages of approximately 2 and 3.
Yes.
Now, did your Aunt Naomi Mobley, did she work?
Yes.
And would she be gone from the home with a full-time job?
Yes, ma'am.
And then who would be at the home?
The defendant.
That's okay. You can refer to him however you're comfortable, okay? Don't feel like you're forced to say one thing or the other, all right?
Okay.
And when you and your sister would go over to the defendant's home, who would be there?
Him and his daughter.
And then would your aunt arrive after she was done with working?
Yes, ma'am.
And during that time frame, did your aunt also do work with a trucking company?
Yes, ma'am.
And would that, when she had that particular job, would that keep her away also during the night hours?
Yes, ma'am.
And so back in 2017, going through 2018, how old approximately would you have been?
15.
And then in 2017?
14.
And would you have been in middle school and then high school during those two years?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, did your mom work full time?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that also why you would go to your Aunt Naomi and uncle and in your defendant's home? Is that also for the defendant to watch you?
Yes, ma'am.
And as you got older, though, were you also assisting with watching NQ?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, how would you describe first of all, to say, generally speaking, your relationship with the defendant at first?
It was okay. It was close.
And based upon your own observations, how at first, and again, this is just beginning, when you're first meeting the defendant, your observations of IS and defendant. Did they seem to have a good relationship?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, at some point, did you learn that the relationship between IS and the defendant was not an appropriate one?
Yes, ma'am.
And would IS confide things into you?
Yes, ma'am.
In fact, did you observe things inappropriate between IS and the defendant?
Yes, ma'am.
And were those observations made at the defendant's home?
Yes, ma'am.
Now let's talk about first, were there two different homes that the defendant and your aunt had during the 2017 to 2018 time frame?
Yes.
Let's talk about the first one. Was that located at 1503 16th Street?
Yes.
Let me show you a couple of photographs here. And is 1503 East 16th Street here in Duval County?
Yes, ma'am.
And we're looking at States 19A. Do you recognize it?
Yes.
And the home that we're looking at to the right, is that the home we're talking about?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, majority of the time that you would go see the defendant, is this where they were living?
Yes, ma'am.
In fact, during at some point in 2018, is that when they moved to the next location off of Trout River Road?
Correct.
Next in states, evidence 19B, again, is this the 1503 residence?
Yes, ma'am.
And is this another viewpoint then of the residence in states 19D?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, was this home commonly referred to as the Yellow House?
Yes.
Now, in states evidence 19F, is this one of the entry points to the home?
Yes, ma'am.
And then in states 19H, is this another entry point inside of the home?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, just to go back, at the time that the defendant and your aunt lived here, if we were to go into that first door, what would we see?
Gym equipment, like there was bongos in there, and there was gym equipment and bongos in there, and other like miscellaneous items.
So gym equipment, bongos, and some miscellaneous items. Is that what you were just saying, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
And was there also an opening to go into another portion of the home?
Yes, ma'am. I went into the living room.
And at the time that the defendant and your aunt lived there, can you tell us the layout of that living room?
Yes. The couch would be facing the opening of the dining room, and Depending on what time, it was on another couch on the wall going to the hallway or by the door to that room.
Was there also then a dining room, a kitchen, and at the time, one bedroom and one bath?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that entry point that you said at the time, though, when your family lived there, it was a gym?
Yes.
I'll fast forward here a second. So here in States 19L, would this have been the area of the living room?
Yes.
However, when your family lived there was 2 couches?
Yes.
Now, in looking at this picture, where would the couches have been located? And you can actually draw if you take your finger when you, because I know there's 2 different arrangements. Is that fair to say?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell us what the first arrangement?
The first one was there was a couch here and then one right here.
And then at some point, were the couches also rearranged?
Yes, ma'am.
And here, and when you make sure I get this clear on the record, so there was a couch that was in the middle of the room, and then there was a couch against the wall to the right. Is that what you just drew, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, in the second layout of couches, where would they have been?
There's a wall on that side. It was one there and still one here.
So is it fair to say that the couch in the middle stayed as is, and then there was a couch moved to the left side of the room?
Yes, ma'am.
And I know it's a little bit blurry, but if we were to keep going to, let me go back a second. If we were to keep going to the left behind this couch, would we have arrived at these 3 doors?
Yes, ma'am.
And the door right here, I've drawn which would be the one that's actually facing us, would that have been the bathroom?
Yes, ma'am.
And then again, at the time that your aunt and the defendant lived there, would there have been one bedroom in this location between those doors?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, when you would go over there, where would you sleep?
In the living room.
Where would IS sleep?
Sometimes in the living room.
And you said sometimes, to where else?
In the bedroom.
Now, when she would sleep in the bedroom, who was home?
The defendant.
So IS would sleep in the bedroom with the defendant.
Correct.
Now, let me go ahead and just ask you this, SS, and let's get it out the way.
Yes.
Was a code name used for the defendant?
Yes, ma'am.
What was that code name?
Jose.
So the person that you just described with the white shirt, the hair in the ponytail, wearing the glasses, sitting at counsel table is in fact Jose. Is that right?
Right.
And was that to protect what was happening?
Yes, ma'am.
Not because you wanted to, but IS wanted it.
Correct.
We'll get a little bit more into that. Is this the kitchen area then of 19N of the home?
Yes, ma'am.
Now we draw your attention to 19O. Was there a laundry room?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, can you kind of indicate, and you can use your finger, please, of where that laundry room would be located?
It's right around there.
So would you have to go outside of the home?
Yes, ma'am.
And you circled an area on a second yellow building. Was that yellow building turned into apartments?
Yes.
However, at the end of that apartment unit, down closer to the other side of the home, not the roadway side, there was a laundry room.
Correct.
And then again, is this then showing the access to that laundry room? It states 19P,
Yes, ma'am.
19Q, and 19R, and then one more in 19S. Bless you. Would that be the area then of the laundry room?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, we had just talked about the fact that you would see your sister when your aunt was not home, sleep in the bed with the defendant. Now, did you also observe other inappropriate things that the defendant did with your sister from your own eyes?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, we'll talk about the couch situation last, but tell me about first what you observed through this time frame.
Yes, ma'am. He would grope her in various areas or like kiss her neck or her lips in like an inappropriate way.
So you would see the defendant kiss her lips, being her mouth.
Yes.
And kiss her neck.
Yes.
And then you say grope her.
Yes.
everyone has a different definition. So what does that mean to you?
To touch inappropriately or in a sexual manner.
And when you say touch, would that be on IS?
Correct.
Would that be the defendant touching IS?
Yes, ma'am.
And where would he touch IS? We know obviously the mouth.
Yeah.
You've told me about the mouth. You told me about the neck.
Her butt, her waist, her chest.
Now, was there a time frame that you saw anything else inappropriate between your sister and the defendant?
Yes.
And where did that occur?
In the living room.
At what we were just looking at here? In States 19L?
Yes, ma'am.
Again, not this furniture, but the furniture of your family?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So that would have been at the Yellow House off of 16th Street?
Yes.
Can you please tell us what happened?
Yes. I went in on the couch, sleep, and IS and the defendant were on another, having a sexual encounter, and I could hear and feel the couch move.
And so just to be clear, was it dark in the room?
Yes.
Did you ever open your eyes?
No.
Could you hear sounds?
Yes.
Could you hear sounds of more than one person?
Yes.
Could you identify who those individuals were?
Yes, ma'am.
And who were they?
The defendant and IS.
And you had stated there were two couches in there. Yes. Were they on the same couch as you, or the different couch?
It was like a different section of the couch, yes, ma'am.
And did you hear noises that were inappropriate?
Yes.
And I don't mean to be inappropriate with asking these type of questions. I just want to make sure that I understand you correctly. Would those include moans?
Yes.
That a person would make having sexual intercourse?
Yes.
And I believe you stated you felt the couch move?
Yes.
Now, were you aware prior to what happened on this particular day that something inappropriate was happening between IS and the defendant?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, in relation to the time that your sister went missing and was killed on 12/19/18, when did that situation occur that you overheard and felt?
Roughly a year before.
So if we're in December 2018, would that have been approximately December of 2017?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what IS, besides school, your home, your father, grandparents in Georgia, and the defendant's home, would she go anywhere else?
No, ma'am.
Was your sister a creature of habit?
Yes, ma'am.
Kind of like a homebody?
Yes.
Now, the defendant, I'll ask you just briefly first. The defendant liked to communicate with you with a certain app.
Yes, ma'am.
And what app was that?
Snapchat.
And did the defendant like to talk to your sister with a certain app?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was that?
Snapchat.
Did the defendant ever tell you why he liked to talk to you and IS by Snapchat?
The messages are erased.
And in fact, did the defendant tell you to not save your messages?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
What was your Snapchat at the time?
I don't remember the handle exactly. Something with my name in it.
Okay. So something with your name in it?
Yeah.
Okay. And in regards to IS, did she have more than one Snapchat account?
Yes, ma'am.
And I believe those were Princess 446 and XS Yana.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm gonna backtrack just a second. In regards to a person by the name of Kamar Humphrey,
Yes, ma'am.
are you aware who that individual is?
Yes, ma'am.
And was that a neighbor?
Yes.
And was that a neighbor that had sex with your sister?
Yes, ma'am.
And did your mom find out about it?
Yes.
And that was in earlier of 2018?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, were you aware that that had happened?
Yes.
Did your sister tell you?
Yes.
After your mom found out about Kamar Humphrey, did your sister see Mr. Humphrey again?
No.
In fact, did Mr. Humphrey stay in the neighborhood?
No.
Can you tell us about that?
After the police report was filed, he moved away shortly after that.
Did your sister ever mention Miss Kamar Humphrey again?
No.
Did your sister have feelings for Kamar Humphrey?
No.
However, did your sister have feelings for the defendant?
Yes.
Did your sister think that she was in love with the defendant?
Yes.
Now, in the summer of 2018, did you and your sister go and visit your grandparents in Georgia?
Yes.
Would that have been after you finished the 2017 to 2018 school year?
Yes, ma'am.
At some point, did you come back, though, to Jacksonville, Florida?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you came back, did you go to a certain birthday party?
Yes.
And whose birthday party?
My grandma Wendy.
And is that in early of July, I think July 7th?
Correct.
That's what
And is that an important time for your family to celebrate?
Yes.
that was
And
stopped me.
did you want to be present to that?
Yes.
And what about IS?
Yes.
And were you?
Yes.
And was
Oh,
IS?
no.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, after spending some time in Georgia, did IS come and stay back at y'all's home on India Avenue?
No.
And where did she go?
My Aunt Naomi's home.
And did she stay the night there?
Yes.
And did she stay there for more than one night?
Yes.
Did you go?
Yes.
And did you stay there for more than one night?
Yes, but the second day.
Okay.
The second day.
So what do you mean by the second day?
The first night she went, I didn't go.
Okay. So initially, just make sure I understand. So initially, IS went and stayed the night at the defendant and her aunt, y'all's aunt's home by herself.
Yes.
However, you joined your sister on the second day and night.
Yes.
Now, at some point, did you learn that your sister was pregnant?
Yes.
Do you remember when you learned that she was pregnant in 2018?
Yes.
And when was that?
Late July, early August.
And at the time, would your sister have been 15?
Yes.
And would you have been 14?
Yes.
So this would have been before your birthdays, right?
Correct.
And did your sister tell you who was the father of the baby?
Yes.
Who?
The defendant.
Was this upsetting?
Look how he looking.
Was abortion ever discussed?
No.
However, in thinking about that, did the defendant provide IS some pills that can cause abortion?
Yes, ma'am.
And what were those pills?
I'm not sure the correct name, but they were green capsules.
Let me ask you something here. Let me show you really quickly.
I ain't seen this.
I'm showing you states evidence 18C. Do you recognize it?
Yes.
And is this the bedroom that you shared with your sister?
Yes, ma'am.
And was the bed that we see indicated to the left, was that IS's bed?
To the left.
Left of the picture? Here, let me go, here, how about that? And say it's 18B, does that help?
Yeah.
Okay. Could you indicate whose bed was whose?
This one is IS, and then this one was mine.
Okay. So the bed that's closer to the window with the pink drapery, that would be IS's bed?
Yes, ma'am.
And then your bed would be closest to the entry point of your bedroom towards the right.
Yes.
Now, was something stored in the bedroom that you shared with IS?
Yes.
And were these those pills?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And were they stored in the closet in a shoebox? And I'm showing you states 18G. Were those the pills?
Yes.
And they're indicated as parsley and donquoit. Do those look familiar to you?
Yes, ma'am.
And were those provided by the defendant?
Yes.
And did the defendant want IS to take these pills?
Yes, ma'am.
And then your understanding of why the defendant wanted IS to take these pills was to prevent having a pregnancy.
How partially gonna stop you from having a baby? He a mess.
Now, in going back and talking about when you found out that your sister was pregnant, did you tell anybody?
No.
Why not?
Wanted to keep the relationship with my sister. And she said she'd eventually tell.
So were you protecting your sister?
Yes.
Did you not want to disclose this horrible secret?
Yes.
How long had you been keeping this horrible secret of IS having a sexual relationship with the defendant?
I believe it was late December of 2018.
That's right, Joanna.
Oh, you meant that's when you finally told?
Yeah.
Do you remember how long, though, leading up to December 2018?
Since.
Let's just say about 2 years or so?
Yeah.
Okay. It's okay. You don't remember the date, do you?
No.
But it was prior to 2018?
Yes.
Okay. Because you had talked about that incident in December of 2017.
Yes, ma'am.
He over there writing like Henry.
Did you ever tell anybody before December of 2018 who Jose was?
No.
Now, early December of 2018, did your family find out about IS being pregnant?
Yes, ma'am.
That's right, Joanne.
However, did your sisters ever tell who the dad was?
No.
Does she still continue to use various names, including Jose?
Yes.
And when I say various names,
She don't fit in.
would IS use other names so nobody would find out about the defendant?
Yes, ma'am.
Had IS made the decision to keep the baby?
Yes.
Did the defendant want IS to have an abortion?
Yes.
However, was IS adamant that she was not?
Yes.
Fast.
Now, did your family ask you if you knew?
Yes.
Did you tell the truth at first?
No.
Were you waiting for IS to tell?
Yes.
However, was there accusations against the defendant?
Yes.
Do you need a moment?
I'm okay.
Do you need some water?
I'm okay.
And you sure?
I'm okay.
Stay strong, baby. Don't let
Did your
him
sister
scare
go
you.
to a doctor appointment and confirm the pregnancy?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
And take a moment.
I'm okay.
Now, on December 19th, 2018, were you at school that day?
Yes.
And did you see your sister at school?
Yes.
Did you speak with your sister outside at the picnic tables?
No.
Remember speaking to her at school?
Yes.
Have you had a chance to review any video surveillance from Terry Parker?
Some. Yes.
What about any of times that you talked with your sister?
I like it young when I was
So
older.
did you speak with her at the picnic tables?
Yes.
Okay. Are you a little bit nervous? Okay, just take your
No,
time.
and he looking at her. Tell him to stop
Were
looking
you
at her.
having a serious discussion with her?
Yes.
Did your sister tell you that she was going to leave for a few weeks?
Yes.
And look at him, y'all. He don't really looking at her now.
In fact, we're using the Christmas holiday to get her not to leave.
Yes.
And when I say leave, did you think she was only going to be gone during the Christmas holiday?
Yes.
Did school matter to
Yeah,
your
well, that is.
sister?
Yes.
Was she a straight A student?
Yes.
Was she already planning her college career?
Yes.
Did you expect your sister to come back?
Yes.
Where did your sister say that she was going to go?
With my grandmother.
And were you asking her not to go?
She 19.
Did you know that your sister was going to leave school that day?
Yes.
Told
You know
y'all.
she was going to leave early.
Yes.
Yeah.
But again, you thought she was going to your grandmother's?
Yes, ma'am.
You knew he was going to.
Now, what time does school get out?
2 o'clock.
And did you get out that day at 2?
Yes.
That's your recollection?
Yes.
And how were you to get home that day?
The school bus.
And did you?
Yes.
Was your sister there?
No.
However, did you let your mom know?
Yeah.
Were you still hoping maybe she hadn't have done it?
Yes.
And was your mom at work?
Yes.
Did you contact her by text or by phone call or how?
Phone.
I think she feel bad.
And did you let her know?
Yes, ma'am.
However, did you tell your mom that she was just going away for a couple of weeks to your grandmother's?
No.
And why not?
I wanted to protect my sister.
But did you still want to make sure she was okay?
Yes.
Now, did you try to reach your sister?
Yes.
And how did you try to reach her?
I'm calling and texting.
Did she respond?
No.
Did you make it home?
Yes.
That time was the
Exactly.
family advised that IS had not got on the school bus with you?
Yes, ma'am.
And did people start to look at her? Look for her?
Yes, ma'am.
In fact, did you even message her to please just let you know she's okay, that everything will be okay?
Yes.
Did that return call or text ever happen?
No.
I believe he touched that girl too. I believe he messed with her too.
Did you even tell your family at that time who?
I'm
Jose
laughing
was?
at Shakira.
Did you still think your sister would make it back home?
Yes.
At some point, did you find out that your sister was not at your grandmother's house in Georgia?
Yes.
Is that when things started to change for you?
Yes.
And when police were called out, did a Detective Porter talk to you?
Yes.
Did you tell her the complete truth?
No.
Did you tell her the truth about who Jose was?
No.
And why? Why not?
I was protecting my sister.
Oh.
And at this time, are you still only 15 years old yourself?
Yes.
Was it a lot to take in?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you help try to look for her?
Yes.
Let me ask you this. Did you ever try to talk with the defendant?
No.
And why not?
I'm scared of him.
What? He dangerous.
At some point, towards the end of December, did you talk to your mom?
Yeah.
Did you tell your mom finally who Jose was?
Yes.
That it was the defendant?
Yes.
And did you ever tell them at that time that you thought, or that the defendant was the father of your sister's child?
Yes.
Now, I have shown you some items previously regarding Victoria's Secret undergarments. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And did your sister favor that brand?
Yes.
Did she have a lot of it?
Yes.
And did I show you several items that had been found at the landfill?
Yes.
And was there a couple of items that you identified that you felt were your sister's?
Yes.
See, I think he don't mess with her too, y'all. I think that's why she's scared of him. I think he don't try her.
I'm showing you state's evidence 42. Just take a moment and look at it. Have you previously looked at this item?
Yes, ma'am.
And did this
Hey,
item
that's
look
right.
familiar to you?
Yes.
And how?
My sister.
Oh, I'm sorry. Here, I'll get up there so you can talk.
My sister had it.
Now, normally, what size was your sister?
Small or medium.
And did you look at the size of this item in states 42 when we met?
Yes.
And what size was it?
A large.
And did I ask you about that?
Yes.
And would your sister ever wear a large?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
If they didn't have her size and she really wanted it, she would size up.
Now, and what about the time that she was also pregnant?
She would pull them over her stomach.
Now, I'm showing you states 44. Do you recognize states 44?
Yes, ma'am.
Did your sister have a pink bra like this from Victoria's Secret?
Yes.
They got to hurry up because I got to go to work, y'all. We might have to catch that second one when I get out from work. We might have to finish this up. We need to do a better job of talking to these young women. That's true. They may not listen, but that is not our concern. Women need to stop.
Now,
trying
after
to
the
love.
items were collected
Women
from your
only.
bedroom, were you also asked to give your DNA sample?
Yes.
That's
And
true.
did you do that with Detective Abbott?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm just going to show you some other pictures really quickly, not many, from State's Evidence 17.
Y'all funny. I didn't know she was on here, honey.
Now, in State's Evidence 17, do you recognize it?
Yes.
And is this the Trout River Road
Sure
residence
will, Mike.
that the defendant and your aunt lived in at the time of December 2018?
Yes.
Now, we see two vehicles. Do you recognize those vehicles?
Yes.
Can you tell me about the black vehicle first?
Yes, it was the defendant's personal car.
And is that like looks like a black Dodge type vehicle?
Yes.
Now, the other vehicle, we don't have
Neither.
special yet, but do you recognize it?
Yes.
And can you tell us about that?
It was their shared family car. It's a van.
Y'all, we got to start right here, y'all, because I got to go to work. So what we'll do when about I get home around about 3 o'clock. So we're gonna start we're gonna start where we stopped at. Where we stopped at, we're gonna start right here. Okay, y'all. Boy, this right here was good. I ain't even seen this. I ain't never seen the sister. This the first time I ever seen this case, y'all. Raise you right. That's right. And I got 3 girls, and I ain't go through this right here, but everybody different. So y'all, I'm gonna go. We're gonna start right here, and then I'm gonna start right here when I get out from work. Okay. Okay. Y'all a miss. Bye, y'all.